when the day is over, the Mets will be heading out of town, but not so fast. Hold that plane flight, because first is another game to play. Suitcases are packed, but the Mets and the Phillies will wrap up their series this afternoon at Citi Field. What history can they make today? At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Philadelphia Phillies. This Mets game on SNY is presented in HD by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez, Ron Darling with you today as the Mets finish off their 4-game series against the Phillies and this 11-game homestand. Yesterday, boy, was it a bizarre game. Pedro Martinez made his return to Flushing. He wound up victorious. An inside-the-park home run for Angel Pagan. In fact, he hit 2 home runs in the game. An overturned catch that was originally not ruled a catch. You never see that. And then the cookie topper in the bottom of the ninth inning, the Mets down 9-7 and rallying, and Eric Bruntlett creates his own history.
Well, he got charged with an error on that ground ball by Castillo. I thought this should have been an error. It was ruled a hit, so he should have had 2 errors, as you said, Gary, to set it up. The hit and run on. A pox on your house. Can you believe it? Triple play unassisted to end this ball game. You've got to be kidding me.
So for the Mets, who have lost every manner of game this year, this was only the second time in Major League history that a game had ended on an unassisted triple play. The first time was back in 1927 by a first baseman, of all things, named Johnny Noon. And to make matters worse, to add injury to insult, in the top of the inning, we mentioned Jeff Francoeur and the catch that was turned into a catch when the umpire was overruled. Well, on this play, Francoeur bent back his left thumb. He's in the hospital right now having an MRI on that thumb.
Well, the only hope is that it's not a ligament damage, that he just maybe a sprain or a bruise. But there's a guy that's been an Ironman his whole career, and he can't get through a season with this Met ball club. Unbelievable what's transpired this entire season here in New York.
So the Mets will hope for some good news on Francoeur coming out of that MRI. Meanwhile, Corey Sullivan will play right field. And with all that, the Mets are facing one of the best pitchers in baseball, Cliff Lee, who has been unbeatable since coming over in a trade from the Indians.
Well, he really has. He's been 4-0, but take it back to when he was with the Indians. He's 7-0 in his last 7 starts. He's 16-2 against the National League in his career. And just like his teammate of last season, CC Sabathia, he's been sent to a team and he's only made them better.
Lee, 22-3 last year, the Cy Young Award winner in the American League. He'll be facing Bobby Parnell, who tries to bounce back from a difficult start against the Braves.
Well, it'll be a big bounce back because 9 earned runs given up by Bobby in his last start. The North Carolinian is going to try to come back and throw more strikes early in the game and get some better defensive help from his teammates.
So Parnell makes his 4th big league start today against a pitcher who hasn't lost in a month and a half. Mets and Phillies wrapping up the homestand. All the action on SNY. To you by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. By Bigelow Tea, the green tea of choice for New York sports legend Joe Torre. By Burger King. By Fox Business Network, the new home of the American dream. And by Pella Windows. Get 2 free Mets tickets when you schedule a free in-home appointment. Call 866-64-PELLA today. Let's say you want access to one of the most popular online sources for Mets info with ongoing fan discussions, opinion, and exclusive player and coach interviews. There's a place for that. Mets Blog, presented by Verizon, featured on SNY.TV, your online home of all things New York sports. Here's your deep around the majors for today. A spectacular debut for John Smoltz. 5 shutout innings for the Cardinals, 9 strikeouts, only 3 hits allowed. Cardinals beat the Padres 5-2 and lead by 8 in the National League Central. CC Sabathia got his 15th win. Hideki Matsui hit 2 home runs. Yankees beat the Red Sox 8-4. And Michael Kadire homered twice in 1 inning, an 8-run 7th for the Twins as they beat Kansas City 10-3. The Twins 2 games under 500, but only 4.5 games out of first place.
Smoltz 9 Ks, 7 were in a row, and the Yankees yesterday hit 5 home runs off of Josh Beckett.
Bobby Parnell looking for better things as he takes the mound this afternoon against the Phillies. Everybody warming up for a nice day at the ballpark. First pitch coming up. Fans who have made their way down here. Let me ask you, how would you feel if you had the seat behind this guy?
Refund, that's the one word I can think of.
Boy, it looks like an Aztec. I hope he doesn't do any human sacrifice.
Here's your Phillies starting lineup for today, brought to you by Smirnoff. Day off for Jimmy Rollins, so Eric Bruntley, who turned the unassisted triple play yesterday as a second baseman, has a chance to do it today as a shortstop. Otherwise, the same unit. Everybody moves up a spot in the order, and they'll be facing Bobby Parnell, who has seen the Phillies this year in relief, first time as a starter.
Boy, very interesting. His first 3 starts, they couldn't have been any different. His one against San Diego, of course, I think nerves overtook him. His next one against San Francisco, outstanding, and his last one giving up 9 earned runs did not work out.
And the Lexus Mets defense, and we've got some changes. You know about Francois O'Sullivan gets the start in right field. Tatis making his 9th start at third base. Why? Well, because David Wright's on the DL. What new? Murphy's playing first base. Delgado's on the DL. So, there you have it, folks.
No word yet on the MRI on Jeff Francoeur. We will pass along information as soon as we receive it. Shane Victorino leads things off. Victorino 2 for 9 in this series, hitting at .313 for the year. And Parnell misses low for ball 1. Victorino 9th in the National League in batting, 5th in runs scored. He's in the top 10 as well in doubles and triples, having a terrific year. And he takes a strike, 1-1.
Very interesting. Parnell got rocked his last outing in Atlanta against the Braves here at Citi. After the game, Don Sutton came by and pulled me aside and said, "I'd love to get 2 days with Parnell. He's got great stuff. He should never get hit like that." So that's high praise.
Yes, it is.
He gave up the bomb to Brian McCann. That was the big blow against him that capped that 8-run inning. As Santos watches this one go into the seats. But in all fairness, there were plays not made behind Parnell that certainly set up that 8-run inning.
It was, but those are things that you have to learn when you're a young player. There's got to be mistakes behind you. Limiting the damage is part of developing.
Well, Parnell earned one distinction in Mets history with that game against the Braves his last time out, something that had never been done before. As Victorino gets drilled to lead off the game. Well, there's an interesting beginning to this afternoon's contest. Victorino, who has nettled some Mets over the last couple of years, gets hit in the backside by the first batter of the game.
And I don't think anything intentional, my opinion. And Victorino, a pro, goes right to first base.
So Jason Worth hitting second in the order. Worth hitting at .271, 4 for 13 in this series with 3 extra base hits, including his 29th home run that he hit in the first inning against Oliver Perez yesterday. And Parnell pitches inside to Worth, who gives him a little stare.
Well, Worth a day late and $1 short. He should have been thrown inside yesterday after almost falling to the ground on a pitch to him.
Well, that first at bat against Perez, it was like he was on all those pitches.
But it was the next time up that he nearly swung out of his socks and almost fell over as Murphy snags that foul pop up for the first out of the afternoon. And this was the one just now.
See how he bends his leg? Watch him. It's called dipping. See how he bends his knees? Is that what he does? Your whole body drops.
But he was bailing out a little bit after being buzzed on the first pitch, right?
That's why you pitch inside. You pitch inside not because for any other reason than that way you get away with pitches. That wasn't a particularly great pitch. It was a fastball on the outer part. But yes, he was not on it because of the pitch prior.
That's one of the flaws in Worth's swing, and he's had a terrific year. I'm sure it's something that he works on, is that when you drop your legs like he did and bend your legs, your whole body drops with it and your bat. And he swings under a lot of balls because as you start your swing and then you bend your legs, your bat's going to drop too. And that is something I've seen from Worth from a long time, but he's having a heck of a year.
Chase Utley had a day off yesterday. 4 for 8 in this series, including his 6th home run against the Mets this year.
It'll be interesting to see if Bobby Parnell pitches Utley a little different. Really, the theme for the Mets pitchers these first couple of games with the day off yesterday is to pitch him inside. Let's see if they try to change it up a little with Utley.
Of course, Utley right on top of the plate has been hit 18 times this year, the most in the league. 2-1 to Utley. Anyway, we're talking about Parnell. First time that this had ever happened in Mets history, that a Met pitcher was charged with 8 or more runs in an inning and then remain in the game to pitch the next inning, which he did, and he pitched much more effectively in that 3rd inning. Mixed in his breaking stuff a little better.
On top of the plate, deep in the box.
Victorino runs. Santos' throw into the runner and skips right by Anderson Hernandez and into center field. Stolen base for Victorino is 19th. And Hernandez didn't make a very good effort to block that ball, keeping it from going into center field.
Well, you're right. He could have tried to get in front tough, and you got Victorino blocking his view. And the Phillies can beat you more with than just with the long ball. They got speed at the top of the lineup. And they displayed it there.
Error charge to Santos, allowing Victorino to take third. The infield will stay back with one out. Two and two the count to Utley, who's driven in 81 runs this year. And Parnell throws a slider and he fouls it off.
Well, those good hitters, that's a pretty good slider right here.
This is earlier today. Omir Santos going through his pregame drills with catching instructor Sandy Alomar Jr.
I thought they did that stuff in spring training.
They only do it now. Alomar Jr.
is wear everybody out.
Up and in. And Utley must have thought that was ball four, or thought he got hit because he was heading to first base.
He thought he got hit. Thinks it just touches his shirt, and it might have. You know, he leads the league most of the times with 20 plus getting hit by pitches.
Oh, it did get his jersey. It did.
Rick Reed, the home plate umpire, said no. So it's 3-2 to Utley. Mentioned he's been hit 18 times this year. That leads the league. And it's too high, ball four, and now Utley's on. So a hit batsman and a walk have put runners at the corners for the Phillies with one out. And Ryan Howard with a chance to do some early damage. Rick Reed is the home plate umpire today. He's the crew chief. Rob Drake, Tim Timmons, Mark Wegner, the rest of the crew. And give them credit for the way they handled the Frank Hoare catch yesterday in the ninth inning.
Very unusual, though, to take away a non-call and make the call that it was a catch, and it was the right play. And you always like to see the umpires get it right.
Of course, Charlie Manuel wasn't pleased. Was very upset about the call being reversed and wound up being ejected, so he wasn't around to watch the unassisted triple play to end the game.
Rick Reed, the home plate umpire, is the crew chief. Been around a long time.
So here is Howard, 3 for 14 in this series. And he takes ball one. That's put on the overshift against him, but they can't use that triangle defense. They have to keep Castillo on the infield with the double play in order. And Parnell works him inside, 2-0.
You know what's interesting, Keith, here is that with the defense on the right side, does Utley steal or not? Because there's not really that big of a hole over there because of that kind of overshift to defense.
You make a good point, Ron. As usual. I expect that from you every day. We get it. Absolutely.
Now Parnell behind 2-0. And a cut at a fastball 2-1. The only thing is, if Utley steals second, then you can move Castillo back into that shallow right field position because the double play would no longer be in order.
Well, swung right under it.
2-1 for Parnell. And he gets even with the fastball, 2-2.
Well, that's that fastball upstairs, and Howard's a low ball hitter.
Well, it's a strikeout situation for Parnell, who doesn't get a lot of double play grounders. And Howard has struck out 148 times this year.
Stay upstairs.
In the air to deep left center field. Sheffield going back. Pagan looking up near the wall, and it's out of here. Another first inning 3-run homer for the Philadelphia Phillies. Ryan Howard hits his 33rd of the year. He now has 102 runs batted in. His 4th straight season of 30 homers and 100 RBIs. Only the second Philly ever to do that. And just as they did yesterday, the Phillies get the 3-run homer in the first inning to take the early lead.
Well, displaying every facet of their wonderful offensive machine. Stolen base at the top. It's an inside out, Ronnie. He inside outed this ball and hit it out in this ballpark. And that's impressive. And that's just to the left of the 384. So that is not a field mouse home run.
Well, you'll never hear me ever say again that he gets cheap home runs in Philadelphia, because the ability to inside out that ball and hit that over that wall just shows you the kind of power that this young man has. IOTV pitch differential wants it down and in.
But still, it's an inside out. And you know what? That even tells you if Howard were to do that in Philadelphia in that bandbox, consistently, he can just take advantage of that short porch. Oh, my word. That's an impressive home run.
Raul Ibanez is struggling right now, and you can see from that swing, 2-2. Well, the Phillies have now scored 101 first-inning runs this year, the most in the majors, and again they've jumped on the Mets early as Ibanez strikes out for the second out of the inning. A hit batsman, a stolen base, an error, a walk, and then Ryan Howard with a 3-run homer, his 33rd of the year.
Well, you see Parnell trying to blow that ball by Ibanez, catches the outside corner and throws it right by him. Ibanez seems off balance every time he swings right now.
Looks like he's got too much of that Charlie Lau Hereniak swing going.
Pedro Feliz, the batter. You also have to wonder, he spent, time on the disabled list with a groin injury, and maybe that leg's still bothering him.
I think you're right, Gary. A lot of times, you tell me, Keith, guys, you have to use your legs really to hit.
Yep. And the older you get, when you have leg injuries, Gary, you can't stay in shape by running. You've got to let the leg rest, and then you fall out of shape, and you've got to get your leg strength back. And if you go up to the plate and your legs feel like butter, you're not going to hit.
1-2 to Feliz, and he fouls that off. And the Phillies won a lot of praise for the signing of Ibanez after the start he got off to, but it's worth remembering that he's 37 years old.
And he played every day in Seattle. He had 2 seasons of 162 games played.
I tell you what, I know when he got called up for the Phillies, John Mayberry's son, I like his swing. I think he's got a chance to be a pretty good player. And he struggled when he got called up earlier.
Bouncing ball for Tatis. Now the long throw to get Feliz. And that does it for the Phillies, but not before Ryan Howard gives them the early lead with a long home run. Depleted further by the thumb injury to Jeff Francoeur. That puts Fernando Tatis in the cleanup spot. Omir Santos up to 6th in the order against the sterling left-hander Cliff Lee. Angel Pagan, 2 home runs yesterday, leads off and takes ball 1 from Lee.
We asked our friends over there at the Philadelphia broadcast, what does Cliff Lee has? Says he has 6 or 7 pitches and he throws them all for strikes. So he's been outstanding. Look at those hits to innings pitched.
Well, 2 complete games out of the 4 starts for the Phillies. Boy, he is just what was in the beginning of the year was a very shaky Philadelphia starting 5. He has solidified it.
Ken Takahashi recalled today by the Mets. Pat Mish was sent down. And that's not because of his performance yesterday. He pitched 4 scoreless innings, but because of the length that he went. The Mets felt they needed more depth in their bullpen today with Parnell starting.
Now, is Parnell not feeling well? Takahashi up throwing? Just getting loose, you think?
It. I mean, you never know, but have to think that he's just getting loose to get loose. Cliff Lee will turn 31 years old next week. And he pops up Pagan. Chase Utley circling under it.
And he drops the ball. And Pagan's safe at second. He'll get up and go to third. He's going to have a chance to score. Takes the turn and heads on in. A Little League home run for Angel Pagan. Chase Utley makes 2 errors on the same play. And Pagan scores to get the Mets on the board. It's going to be another one of those days, perhaps.
I don't believe this. And he uses 2 hands.
He's got the sunglasses on.
He just clank. How about that? Oh boy, that's embarrassing.
You know, Angel running hard on that pop-up.
Unbelievable. Yesterday it was Eric Bruntlett making 2 bad plays to set up his unassisted triple play to end the game, subbing for Utley. Utley goes in there, and in the first inning today makes 2 errors on the same play. So Pagan, who had an inside the park home run legit yesterday, well, except for the fact that Phillies outfielders decided not to pick up the ball, today has an inside the park home run the way you find when the 7-year-olds play. 1-1 to Castillo.
Well, I tell you what, Pagan's in shape. He just dropped it, and that is Mr. Surehands right there.
They're going to stop letting Little League teams come here. And watching this.
It's infectious. 10 errors for the season now for Utley. And Castillo, who's been red hot, fouls it off. 1-2.
Well, Pagan yesterday hit the 2 home runs here, getting a little help from Victorino. You can see too much ball here. He's got to make that play. He's got to go get it. And Pagan hustled all the way.
Castillo hits one to left center field. And Victorino settles under this and uses 2 hands and squeezes it. And that's the first down. Now,
the forward Philly defense, you can see Eric Bruntlett. How about that? 15th unassisted triple play in Major League history. He's moved over to shortstop today. So as Gary said, I thought he should have been charged with 2 errors. He set up that whole triple play yesterday. He knew it was coming.
There have been more perfect games than unassisted triple plays in the history of the game.
There have now been 15, including the one in the World Series in 1920 by Bill Wambsgans. But there have been 3 in the last 3 years. Troy Tulowitzki had one in 07, Asdrubal Cabrera last year, and now the Eric Bruntlett unassisted triple play.
Cabrera's last year, in fact, Ron Hansen was a scout at the game, and he had an unassisted triple play with the Washington Senators in 1968.
Sheffield just 1 for his last 13. Keith, I want to go back to the Angel Pagan inside the park home run yesterday, because I was watching TV last night and I saw a couple of former outfielders, John Kruk and Chris Singleton, say that had the Philly outfielders not picked the ball up, that the umpire would have come out and ruled that a ground rule double. I didn't think that at the time. Do you think that's true?
Well, I thought it wasn't in there enough that, you know, in Wrigley you can lose it in the ivy. I've seen the play stopped in the ivy. I've seen balls that have gone in between the seams of the padding like that, but underneath. But I felt there was too much ball showing.
So that's the standard. The standard is whether the ball is sticking out or whether it's completely lodged in there. Is it whether it's accessible? What is there a specific ground rule, or is it a particular standard?
Well, I tell you what, I'm not totally sure here. Sheffield looks like for the state fair,
and that drops in. Worth chasing it. It stays in play. Sheffield turns second, heads for third, and Sheffield has himself a triple. More bizarre doings as that ball hopped by Jason Worth, and he had trouble getting it in the corner.
Well, it's not Halloween, is it? Oh, it bounces up. He lost it. Can you believe this?
Well, there's another ground rule for you right there. That rattled off the metal part of the staircase there.
Oh, Sheffield never goes down the right field line, and that's going to drop. It's a matter of it staying fair.
And he sees Worth unable to come up with it and just cruises on into third with his second triple of the year.
So getting back to your point, Gare, my feeling is that there's a ball showing and the ball should be in play. I don't know the rule, if there is one.
Well, Charlie Manuel said that there was no specific ground rule discussed that covered this play during the pregame meeting.
The problem for Victorino, as Lee delivers his pitch, is that in Citizens Bank Park, there is a ground rule, and if the ball gets lodged below the mat, then you just raise your hands. It's automatic double, ground rule double. That's why Victorino did what he did yesterday. The problem is that that rule is not universal for all stadiums, and maybe it should be.
Tatis to deep right center field. Back goes Worth. He has room on the warning track to make the catch, but Sheffield can walk on in on the sacrifice fly by Tatis, and the Mets get 2 runs right back against Cliff Lee and the Phillies in the bottom of the first. It's now 3-2. So Sheffield with the triple, Tatis with his 32nd run batted in, and I guess the guy behind him told him to take his hat off. So now Daniel Murphy is riding a 9-game hitting streak.
Murph is slowly creeping up in that batting average, hitting 261. Coming into this game, he's been on a steady rise. He was kind of stuck in the 240s for an awful long time, and now he has just had a very, very good August.
Facing a tough left-hander here, and he grounds one weakly out to Utley, who handles this one cleanly. That ends the inning, but a couple of unearned runs off Cliff Lee, and it's 3-2 Philly. So after one today, time for your Dunkin' Donuts Ask the Booth. Taryn from Freehold says, how does your preparation for Mets telecast differ from when you did radio broadcast?
Good question.
Well, I have to dress better.
That's right. This is better.
And it's not the preparation. It's really when we get here, I have to play well with others.
That's right.
Because I have to let my partners talk. Because they know so much more than I do.
Oh, please.
But I will say one thing. Gary does dress better, but he still wears sneakers in the booth. You can wear anything you want on your feet, folks.
I was going to say.
No one ever sees our feet.
I was going to say, should we mention some of your footwear?
Yes.
Actually, a couple of years ago, I believe that Keith showed his Crocs on the air.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
So
What are you wearing today?
I got shoes because we're traveling. We're traveling.
It's a travel day. It's not fair.
Got to bring a coat. All that stuff.
Eric Brundtland pops one up into shallow left, and out goes Anderson Hernandez to one-handed. One away.
You see Howie? Look what he gets to do. He gets to be comfortable. I saw him. He's got Bermudas on, and I tell you, his legs aren't pretty.
Howie has his credential on. I mean, he's all right in that booth. He doesn't need his credential on.
Don't you think everybody knows who Howie is?
Exactly.
There's Paul Bacco, who has caught every start of Cliff Lee since he joined the Phillies, and he takes ball one.
Well, isn't it that famous story where was it Bill King in Baltimore when it was oppressively humid, went down to his shorts and did the radio broadcast?
The old Oakland A's announcer.
Yes.
Well, Bill was a quirky kind of
Yes,
guy.
he
He was quirky. He used to always take his shoes off on the plane. He was with the Oakland Athletics when I was there.
I grew up with Bill King. He was the voice of the radio voice of the San Francisco Warriors back then.
Driven deep to left by Bacco. Back goes Sheffield to make the grab, but he drops the ball. Oh, my.
Are you kidding?
That is just unbelievable.
What? Day games, I'm telling you.
Whoa. Thumb. So an error on Sheffield.
How about this? The buzz in the stands here. The fans are just in disbelief.
Well, Chase Utley has already made 2 errors on 1 play. By the way, the first 2-error game of Utley's career. And Anderson Hernandez is asking for sunglasses. Don't you think that would have been a nice thing to have before the inning began?
Yep. Well, he caught his pop-up, but here's the play again. Oh, he hit it off the thumb. You're right, Gare. Oh, look at the fan. Look at the fan react. And look at the Philly fan. Oh, gosh.
It's been a long season, guys. Cliff Lee has 5 hits this year. He's got Bacco at second and 1 out. And he takes a rip and fouls it off.
He's got a nice swing. He's got a couple multi-hit games this season. So Mr. Lee knows what he is doing up there.
Well, he didn't have a hit as an Indian. He was 0 for 6. But he's 5 for 13 as a Philly. And time was granted, so no pitch.
Well, we got 2 fans here. And look at this Philly fan right there. And this guy. Oh, that's Mutt and Jeff.
Despair and joy side by side. 0-2 now to Lee.
What a beautiful day.
Beautiful day, but a ragged start to a baseball game. You had Parnell hitting the first batter of the game. You had a throwing error on Santos because Hernandez didn't knock down a throw. You had Utley drop a ball and throw one away. You had Sheffield drop one, and it's only the top of the second. There have been 4 errors in this game already. 1-2 to Lee.
If he were still alive, Rod Serling would write the story of the season. I mean, wow.
Those are unusual totals, to say the least.
Area,
more like area codes.
Exactly. 3-1-2. That's Chicago, isn't it?
We'll be going there. Be there next weekend.
I have not been to Chicago in around 3-4 years, Ron. You've had you've had that trip.
Well, we had one trip. I don't know if it was last year. It was so bad. We got in late at night. We had a night game in Chicago, and the next day was a day game and out of there. So never got to enjoy city with the big shoulders.
A little longer trip this time. 2-2. Now back. Good cut.
Very good cut.
Mets will have a day game in Chicago Friday. A late afternoon game Saturday, but we're off because that's on national TV. Then a day game Sunday. Then they're staying overnight Sunday night because they have an off day Monday, and they'll fly to Colorado on Monday. So
right. Wow.
That's 4 nights in Chicago.
I am flying ahead of the team to join my daughters in Denver. I'm going to fly after the game on Sunday with Wayne. Wayne's going to.
He's from there. Wayne lives there, right?
His wife will be very happy to see Wayne, I hope.
I hope too. Lee down swinging. Second strikeout for Parnell.
Well, he made him work for it. Went upstairs.
Just 4-seam fastballs. You see that come out of the hand of Parnell. Who says the ball doesn't rise? That looks like that one rose.
Optical illusion.
There you go.
Here's Victorino, who was hit by a pitch, stole a base, and scored on the Ryan Howard home run in the first inning. And first pitch changeup from Parnell, ball 1. Still a work in progress, that pitch.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the first pitch changeup because what are you changing up off of? You know?
Comes back with a fastball for a strike, 1-1. Nice snag by Parnell. Right in the webbing of the glove, and against Victorino. Working around the error by Sheffield to keep it 3-2. Mets games on SNY are available in HD, presented by IOTV. And if you're in the car, listen to every game on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. Road trip starts tomorrow night in Florida with Johan Santana on the mound. 2 night games and a day game in Florida. 3 day games in Chicago. 2 night games and a day game in Colorado. That's 5 day games out of 9 on the road trip.
And don't confuse that logo with the Chicago Bears. They're playing the Cubs.
Good thing.
It looks like the Bears.
Because the Bears were a little tough on the Giants the other night. 0-2 to Santos.
Who are the Giants?
Well, you're going to miss it because you'll probably be on the flight. You got your Jets playing tonight.
Jets playing tonight.
Who do the Jets open up with, Gare, this year? You know? And the Giants.
Houston. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. In Houston, correct? Houston Texans. The Giants have the Redskins. Oh boy, they'll beat them. Redskins don't have the offense.
Jets playing the Ravens tonight, so it'll be a good test defensively for Mr. Sanchez.
0-2 to Omir Santos, who's 6 for his last 13, and he pops one foul. Santos getting more and more of the playing time now.
There's a diehard.
You know, what's lost in this the last couple of days because of the game ending on the unassisted triple play is the great comeback by the Mets in yesterday's game after Ollie gave up 6 runs and had the winning run at the plate. And they'll come back today.
Well, yesterday the Phils got 6 in the top of the first, and the Mets immediately responded with 2, and were fighting uphill all day.
Good pitch.
Santos down looking. First strikeout for Lee.
Pointing almost towards first base is Lee, so he eliminates that turn and just really makes it so easy. Just an easy, effortless kind of motion.
That's a sweet little graphic right there.
Yeah, nice, right?
Very nice.
Remind you of anybody on it?
Well, I think when I look at him, although he's a little taller, you know, Tommy Glavine-like, you know, just have that nice, easy motion. They don't put a lot of effort into it, and kind of a dart thrower. He's got a little more fastball than Tommy had.
Corey Sullivan getting a rare opportunity against a left-hander. He's had just 5 at-bats against lefties. In there because of Jeff Francoeur's injury.
Have you ever gotten to see Jared Washburn, who got traded from Seattle? He has that kind of motion also.
See, I can see right now why Lee's successful. He doesn't throw 95. He's throwing 90, 91. But he locates and he pitches in.
High breaking ball, and it's 3-1. American League Cy Young Award winner last year. He went 22-3 for an Indians team that didn't give him a lot of support last year or this. He was 7-9 at the time of the trade this year.
They're only scoring a little over 3 runs a game for him, though.
3-1 to Sullivan, and he jams him, and he grounds one out to Utley. 2 out. Here's Ronnie's inside pitch on Cliff Lee, part of the business of baseball, brought to you by Xerox, ready for real business.
Well, Keith just mentioned that he likes to pitch in, so he pitches to both sides of the plate. Outstanding curveball. He hasn't even thrown it yet, trying to go through the Met lineup the first time. And he is extremely tough with runners on base. 7 for the last 81 coming into this game when runners are on base against Cliff Lee.
So 2 out and nobody on. Here's Anderson Hernandez. Got a double his last time up in the game yesterday to snap an 0 for 17 stretch. First pitch swinging, fouls it off.
Hey, there's nothing. It's very straightforward with Cliff Lee. He's gonna. You're hitting off Cliff Lee. He's gonna come after you. He's not afraid.
Get over the bag. That's a fair ball. And that'll go all the way into the deep corner. Hernandez to second, pulls in there with a 2-out double. So Anderson Hernandez has now doubled each of his last 2 at-bats.
Right down the line, Feliz has no shot. Ibanez goes there and corrals it. And I think it's a cutter. Inside. Let's see.
A little cutter, Keith.
Yep. Left it out over the plate.
Boy, that's great for that rotation.
Beautiful.
Nice shot.
So the tying run at second with 2 out. Bobby Parnell, the batter. Parnell 1 for 3 in his major league career. Looking for his first run batted in.
Works very quickly, does Cliff Lee. See the grip and go.
Hernandez runs, and it's fouled off.
That's all. I tell you what, with 2 outs, you're already in scoring position. Just stay there.
Well, the other thing is, if you get caught, the last thing you want is a pitcher leading off the next inning.
He's got a huge lead, though. I tell you what, they were giving it to him. He could have walked there. I could have stole that base.
No,
Well,
it's not going that far.
Okay, I'm sorry. Got a little carried away.
Talk about then or now. 0-2 to Parnell. Past the mound, and Utley plays that spinning ball. Parnell running hard, but he's out to end the inning. On to the third, 3-2 Phillies. 2009, featuring play-by-play, video highlights, and live audio broadcasts. Visit Mets.com on your iPhone or iPod Touch to purchase. Here's your AT&T high-speed pitch. With Lee topping out at 94 and Bobby Parnell at 95.
Couldn't have predicted that. I thought that Parnell would throw at least 4 or 5 miles an hour more than Lee, but Lee popped one in there at 94.
Parnell, who made the last out. Lee getting to the mound as he prepares for the third inning. He'll take on Jason Worth, Chase Utley, and Ryan Howard in the third inning. Gotta buy a ticket.
Yes, I'll get you one.
That's a nice gesture on your part. You ever buy lottery tickets?
I have.
You did. You pick your own numbers, or you let the machine pick?
I let the machine pick. And one time I picked Hall of Famers numbers that were all hitters. Didn't win.
Those guys all have their gloves, but are they in the ready position?
They're ready now after watching the first couple innings here.
Well, they may feel as though they can do as good a job
That's
as
what I'm
some
saying.
of the big leaguers have been watching.
You know, on Anderson Hernandez having to get glasses in the middle of that inning, last inning. When I played, Gary, every day game, unless of course it was, you know,
Stormy or
rainy
something.
and stormy. If it was overcast, I always put my glasses. I always wore my glasses. You never know when that sun can pop through.
Well, here it's been sunny all day. It's not as though the sun just came out.
It was part of your gear, wasn't it, Keith? On a day game, you'd have your glove, you'd have your hat, and then you'd have the flip downs right on top of it.
Beautiful crowd on a beautiful day.
Final game of an 11-game homestand. 3-1 to Jason Worth, and he walked him. So a leadoff walk issued by Parnell, his second of the day, and now he'll have to take on Utley and Howard with a man on. Chase Utley worked on a walk his first time up.
Worth with 13 stolen bases on the year, only caught 3 times. And we remember that game a couple years ago. How many bases did he steal that day?
Billy Wagner.
Stole second and third in the 9th inning against Billy Wagner.
On successive pitches.
By the way, Billy is still a Met, still available for use today. Mets and Red Sox have until 1 o'clock tomorrow to work out a deal. Utley takes in the dirt, ball 1.
Parnell's problem has always been his secondary pitches, particularly his changeup, but so is Billy right there. It's a work in progress. He's mixed in some breaking balls around and it's fallen behind.
Well, yeah, the problem is if you throw a first pitch changeup in the dirt, that's really the pitch you want to throw when you're 1-2 or 0-2, ahead in the count. But it's not like he's not trying to throw for a strike, just not there yet.
2-0 now to Utley.
Utley stands so close to the plate. I tell you what, all those hitters that stand close to the plate want the ball in. I guarantee you. Jim Cott told me a very interesting story when he faced Frank Robinson. And Frank Robinson stood on top of the plate. He said, Jim, a couple times through, he realized that you thought you could get inside on Frank. He said that's where he wanted it. And he just said it took me a couple times facing him where he was wearing me out to realize I had to go away.
No better example of that than Barry Bonds. Utley hits one out to right center. Parnell just got that pitch in enough. And Pagan and Sullivan look at each other, and Sullivan makes the catch as Worth goes back to first.
Well, we'll take a look here. They're both closing. And it's Sullivan's ball all the way. Comes in a semicircle around there. Easy can of Del Monte.
You know, it's kind of interesting, though, when you're a center fielder by trade, sometimes Sullivan's probably thinking that if that was his ball and he was in center field, he would call off the right fielder. That's why I think there was a little mix-up.
So 1 out and 1 on. Here's Ryan Howard, who hit an opposite field 3-run homer his first time up, his 33rd of the year.
Well, this was an inside out, and I tell you what, he's that strong, and he is. And you make him inside out, and he hits that ball over that high fence at 384. That's impressive. That's what stuff that Dave Parker did when he was in his prime with the Pirates.
Well, we used to talk about Pat Burrell and all the home runs that he hit against the Mets. Ryan Howard is starting to get into that territory. He now has 24 home runs against the Mets, and his favorite opposition ballparks did home runs. He hit 12 of them at Shea and 12 at Turner Field, but he now has 3 here at Citi Field. So he's got 15 against the Mets in the Mets home ballparks,
wow,
which is the most he's had against any team.
And of course, he's going to play more games in division than he is out of division, and not as close, nearly as close as Utley, but that's about average.
Two and one to Howard. .24 home runs in only 80 games. It's a pretty good ratio.
Yeah.
Slightly.
Of course, you know, Rollins has 23 home runs against the Mets. Utley has 22. So, you know, those big bombers in the Phillies lineup, they have done a lot of damage. Rollins getting a day off today. He was not late, just
yeah,
in case anybody's misinterpreting anything. If you'll recall last year, day game at Shea Stadium, he arrived late, was scratched from the lineup by Charlie Manuel. Swing and a miss is Worth fake to start. 2-2.
That is interesting. That's one of those, Keith, huh, where you start and you go, boy, you know, I didn't get a great jump there. I'm going to come back.
I agree. That is exactly right. Spider-Man gloves.
2-2. And the slider, he lays off. 3-2.
And this is one of the progressions of this young hitter here, Ryan Howard. He is developing a much better eye at the plate with experience. He's laying off those breaking balls that he used to fish for, becoming a little much more disciplined. And that all comes with experience and success.
See if Worth runs. He does. 3-2, fouled off.
Well, these Phillies, when I watch them, Keith, if I was sitting on the bench getting a start against them, I would say, boy, they're almost like an American League lineup, like an American League East lineup. They want to work you. They want to take a lot of pitches. They want to up your pitch count.
There's Mr.
Jeff's back from the doctor.
Nothing on his hand. That's good to see.
Another foul ball. Oh, Francoeur went for an examination of his left thumb, which he hurt when he made that catch in the top of the ninth yesterday, and he said the thumb swelled up overnight, which is why he went in for the MRI today. But you see him showing that thumb, and we are still waiting to hear the results. But it's certainly good news that Jeff is back. Here's the play where that thumb bent back.
We thought originally, because a lot of times you see those catches, we thought it was the wrist.
Worth runs. Howard hits one in the air to right field deep. Sullivan back, looking up, and that ball is out of here. Into the Pepsi porch. Howard's second home run of the day. It's a 5 RBI afternoon, and the Phillies lead 5-2. Number 34 for Howard. And make it 25 home runs against the Mets.
I have always said, Gary, when this man learns to pull, he's going to hit him out of sight. But he turns on this one, and he knew he got it.
And he made the adjustment, Keith. He's been getting beat up in the strike zone. Oh, that one's not high enough, though.
And it's down Broadway, too.
Yeah.
But inside out to the opposite field, the exact opposite here. He pulled it. And that's impressive.
So the former MVP hits his 34th of the year. He now has 104 RBIs.
And see that ILTV pitch differential. You wanted that inside that was middle.
So Parnell, who had allowed only 3 home runs this season in 57 innings, has given up 2 to Ryan Howard today. 1 to left and 1 to right. Ibanez rolls over one, and Castillo throws him out for the second out.
we're going to show you Howard again. Fastball wants it in. It's right down the pipe. Look at him get the barrel through. That's just all upper body. He doesn't take a big stride. And all the hitters today, they don't use their. Oh my goodness, the high priest has disappeared.
The hat has been disposed of.
Well,
what's that all about?
Well, maybe they made, the security people might have told him, hey, you got to put that down. People can't see behind you.
It's like, stop being silly.
Phillies grounded out to Tatis his first time up. The Phillies have had only 2 hits in this game, both by Ryan Howard, and both have left the yard. Hit hard down to third. Nice play by Tatis. And the submarine throw. Murphy tried to make the tag, but Phillies is safe. Rob Drake, the first base umpire, ruling that no tag was made.
Well, the ball runs into the line. Murph comes off the bag wisely, but he got a little nonchalant there. And I've seen Murph get a little bit goofy around first base, and he's got to be conservative in his play. He has not played that much. Did he get him?
Nope.
He missed him. Nice play, Ole. Let's see here. It's a great angle. He missed him clearly.
They're going to charge an error on Tatis.
I agree.
Well, they say you have to separate the play from the throw, and the play was great, but the throw was not.
5th error in the ball game, Gare.
And it's only the 3rd inning. I know there's no full moon because it's daytime.
It's not Halloween. Another month for Halloween.
Eric Bruntlett popped up his first time up.
Well, here's a side view of the home run swing here. Look at that front foot. Hardly any stride. It's just all upper body. That's how strong that young man is. If he ever learns to get his body in sync, to get his legs to work with his upper body like McCovey, Stargell, good Lord. You guys will go out there with armor on. And you can see right there. And you pull the ball, you want to hit it more out in front. And that is clearly, oops, that won't work. I was late, but he's right on that one. Guys, we need to go maybe on an off day in the truck. Webby, you and I work together on this telestrating. We get it right.
Webby said he's got it right.
You know, it's not that different from finger painting in nursery school.
I'm the worst. I am terrible. Oh, goodness.
Ronnie, how come he never lets you tell us straight? 1-2 to Bruntlett. Line to the left field, a base hit. Phillies to second. He'll hold up there.
All right.
Second hit of the inning off Parnell. Well, we're going to give Keith another chance here.
Well, this is Bruntlett, and I'll stay away from the telestrator. Ronnie, move in if you want.
Well, this is a guy who has not been able to hit all season long. Now has 4 hits against Met pitching these last 2 days.
So we'll try it again. See, right here. Hit the ball out in front. That's where the bat is, even though you can't see the bat. I cleared it. Beautiful. We did it.
You get an A+. Would you like a gold star to go with that?
Oh.
Extra goldfish at halftime.
There you go.
Extra goldfish.
Graham cracker.
Oh, boy.
Go slow. Here's Baco with 2 men on. Hit a fly ball to left that Sheffield dropped for an error. One of the 5 errors in this game so far. 3 for the Mets, 2 for the Phillies. And a slider knocked down by Santos, 1-0. Ryan Howard with 2 home runs today, the 21st multiple home run game of his career, and his 4th this season. And that's put Bobby Parnell in a 5-2 hole, with Howard driving in all 5 runs.
It's a cruel game, Ronnie, isn't it? When you get you see the pitch count right there, not good.
28 in the first inning, and this inning has only made that worse.
This is the learning of the school of hard knocks. Boy, we've all been through it.
Now behind 2-0 on the number 8 hitter Baco, and now it's 3-0.
It's like skipping freshman year and going straight to graduate school. Very difficult.
Pitcher Lee is on deck. And Ken Takahashi up and probably now up for real after throwing back in the first inning. And there's a strike, 3-1. Parnell has walked 2. He's hit a batter. Struck out 2. 30 pitches in this inning to go with the 28 in the first inning. 3-1. Baco grounds one down to first. Parnell races over to cover, and the side retired. But Ryan Howard with his second home run of the day, a 2-run shot, gives the Phillies a 5-2 lead as the Mets come up in the bottom of the third. Pepsi Porch with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
Well, Gary, if you were out here earlier today before the game, if you're in the Pepsi Porch, you got a chance to see David Wright out on the field for the first time, just getting hit in the head by that Matt Cain fastball, and it was a welcome sight. Took ground balls, just kind of light workout, just getting back in the swing, that type of thing. And afterwards, of course, he talked about he's just dying to get back. That's the bottom line. Now, the next step, he's hoping to take batting practice tomorrow. He will not accompany the team on the trip right now, but he says, come Colorado, when this DL stint is over, I expect to be there. So likely he'll fly out to Colorado on his own and join the team there. I asked him what he's been doing this whole time on the bench. He said, well, I try to keep myself busy. I'll even go back and watch video for guys if there was a pitch in question or what they saw. Go to the clubhouse and get things, and maybe even occasionally peek at the broadcast. So he's just bored, trying to get back. He'll be back in Colorado. That's the good news, guys. Sure looks that way.
Kevin, you're up there on the Pepsi Porch. Ryan Howard hit one in your general direction not too long ago. Were you threatened?
I got to tell you, kind of ironic story, I suppose. There's a few Philly fans, I guess they've since left. They actually watch our broadcast, so that's a positive. But I turned around to talk to them, and the guy said, hey, you better turn around. This next one might hit you in the head. It didn't hit me in the head, but, well, yeah.
Is it hot up there, Kev?
It's hot, but it's nice. There's a little breeze kind of wafting through. It's not bad.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Do you have your sunglasses?
I do. They're here. I didn't want to use them in the shot here. I thought I might use a little tacky.
Well, you could have used the flip downs, and just kept them up for the report and flipped them down later.
Now I learned from a veteran. I got to do that next time.
Keep yourself cool. Hydration, very important.
By the way, guys, I usually don't sun myself in pants, so it's a little warm. Just FYI.
Kev, if you get hot, just come join us in the booth. We need some company. Come join.
Should I bring any food this time?
No,
it's rare that I come without food in hand.
No, it's okay. I had breakfast this morning.
And he just had his ice cream, so he's all set.
I'm good. That's why Ronnie carried that last inning. I was eating with ice cream.
1-2 to Angel Pagan, and he drives one into left field for a base hit. So after Pagan circled the bases his first time up on a couple of errors, now aboard of his own accord. He now has a 9-game hitting streak. And Angel continues to burnish his credentials.
Well, I think it's safe to say that Mr. Pagan is a pretty fine little hitter. He is impressive from both sides of the plate. plate, and I've seen him now where he's gone into a slump. He's come out of it, and he's staying healthy, getting a chance to play every day. He swings a good bat.
So now Castillo, who flied out his first time up. Louis has had 6 consecutive multiple hit games. There's only one Met in history who's ever had more consecutive multiple hit games than 6, and that was Steve Henderson, who did it in '79. He had 8 straight multiple hit games.
Was that Henderson's great rookie year? When he, not
no,
rookie, when he came over the
in
trade.
'77.
Yeah. Remember that he had a hitting streak that year, right here in '77 when he came over, if I recall. I could be wrong.
You might be right.
I remember he tore it up the first half of the season when he originally.
I mean, Steve Henderson was a good player. The only problem was he had the misfortune of being one of the players the Mets got for Tom Seaver.
Correct.
He would always be diminished by that.
Never get traded for the franchise.
I mean,
bad move.
Doug Flynn, a Gold Glove caliber second baseman, and Pat Zachary, who had been a Rookie of the Year, a decent pitcher, and Dan Norman, who never really amounted to much, but. They were 4 nice players. A tough throw by Lee for Howard to handle, and a nice throw to get him at second base. Boy, Ryan Howard really saved Cliff Lee there as they turn the 1-3-6 to get Pagan.
Well, I know the Mets are really kind of just playing it very footloose and fancy free. They're trouble scoring runs. Nice recovery by Howard. Fortunately, he's a left-hander. He can throw around the runner. You see he cuts the angle down there. And the lefty has a much better angle to throw. Perfect. You're down 3 runs. Boy, you can't run yourself out of innings.
Bouncing ball for Bruntlett to handle, and that's the second out.
Affleck!
Here's your Affleck trivia question. Who were the winning pitchers for the Mets in the 3-game sweep of the Braves in the 1969 League Championship Series? Just a hint. They were all high-scoring games.
That's right. We've got 2 of them. The third.
Well, Game 3 is famous for the effort of the winning pitcher.
Yes.
Here's Gary Sheffield, and he drives one foul down the left field side. Keith, you were talking about Pagan and his bat, and I think part of that is the flip side there. The base running is something that is still a work in progress.
Yes, and he does tend to make some mental errors in the field. Has to work on his baseball instincts, but he certainly could swing the bat.
1-1 to Sheffield, who had an opposite field triple his first time up. Two and 1 to Sheffield as the Phillies overshift their infield against Gary. One of the few times you'll see that overshift against a right-hand batter.
Pitch him, pull, pitch him in.
And he hits it right into the shift to Bruntlett. And so Lee is done in the bottom of the 3rd. 5-2 Phillies. likeness of Mr. Met. Does he get royalties from that?
I hope so.
Cliff Lee will lead off for the Phillies as we go to the 4th inning. Lee struck out his first time up. Facing Bobby Parnell, who's given up 5 runs in the first 3 innings on 2 swings of Ryan Howard's bat. Bobby, who only lasted 3 innings in his last start against the Braves, already has a very high pitch count in this game. Well, starting pitching has been the concern for the Mets all year once they've gotten past Johan Santana. Oliver Perez has struggled. John Maine has struggled and been hurt.
Yeah.
Mike Pelfrey has been up and down. The 5th spot in the rotation, which was manned ably by Livan Hernandez for a while, no longer. One-two to Lee, and he pops one foul that'll come back out of play. Santos never saw it.
Gary, you're awful sedate today. Very quiet.
Lee down swinging, and that's the 3rd strikeout for Parnell. Really?
Yeah.
Well, this is the best slider he's thrown all game long. Down and in. Wants to break pretty late. That's some of the physical talent that you were talking about that Mr. Sutton remarked on.
Yep.
Late breaking slider. Hard to teach that.
I'm sure Mr. Sutton loves that 95-mile-an-hour fastball, too.
Here's Victorino, 0 for 1. Victorino hit by a pitch and scored in the 1st. He had a comebacker to Parnell in the 2nd. And Parnell ahead 0-2. See the Mets at the movies this Wednesday on the larger-than-life screen at the Ziegfeld Theater in Midtown Manhattan. Join Mr. Met and fellow Met fans for SNY's live broadcast when the Mets face the Marlins at 7:10 p.m. Get your tickets at Mets.com/movies today. 0-2 to Victorino. And he bounces one. Murphy wide to play it. Parnell's going to beat Victorino and just gets there for the 2nd out.
Nice play by Daniel. Routine, but let's not forget that this man is not a first baseman. He's learning as he's going along, and I think he's doing a pretty terrific job.
The harder play there was for Parnell. He really had the motor.
Well, it's part of, knowing what you're doing out there. A lot of times you get pitchers that really think the only job to do is throw the ball to the plate. You got to recognize, okay, Victorino up. What goes through your head? Here's a guy that loves to bunt. He can bunt down the line. He can pull it with him. He also has great speed, so anything to the right side, I got to make sure I bust it over there, and he did. The short, choppy strides and the long strides right next to each other.
So a chance for his first 1-2-3 inning of the day as Jason Worth steps in. Worth is fouled out and then walked and scored 0 for 1. Each team has had only 3 hits, but there have been 5 errors in this game and 2 home runs by Ryan Howard.
Just looks like a confident club, doesn't it? Just emits confidence.
Well, doesn't the very fact of having won a World Series instill confidence in you?
Oh, sure.
It can, but it can also make you, if you're not strong-willed, complacent too.
Yep.
So.
Yep. You're only.
You see the standings in the National League East.
They are trying to blow this division out of the gym.
Well, Davey Johnson used to always say, right, Keith, push to 15, get to 20, and the march to 30 over 500 is when you become a good team.
Three and one to Jason Worth, and he walked him. So Parnell unable to secure that 1-2-3 inning. Instead issues his third walk of the day. And now he'll face Chase Utley with a man on. Here's your Toyota text ball for today. What position do you think the Mets will need to upgrade the most in the offseason? First base, catcher, starting pitcher, outfielder. Text your response to 57508 or visit sny.tv.
Or you can add E, all the above.
I mean, there's a longer list you could make, but that's a good starting point, those four. Little parasol. Stop in the sun on a warm afternoon. Chase Utley takes outside from Parnell.
You know, Keith, you were talking before a little bit about Jim Cott facing Frank Robinson standing on the plate. It only makes me think of Utley standing on the plate. One of the things you have to realize is that if you get ahead in the count, when you go away, you have to make sure, you see the pitch count, you have to make sure you throw it 2 or 3 more inches away because he can cover more on the outside part of the plate. Like the outside part of the plate for Utley, standing on the plate, the outside corner is really almost the middle of the plate for him.
Well, when you stand that close to the plate and you throw on the outside corner, that barrel of the bat, look, you can see it right there, that barrel of the bat, the sweet part of the bat covers that outside corner. Utley doesn't use a very long bat. I bet you he's got a 34-inch bat. He wants. Remember Rusty stood on top of the plate?
Yeah.
He had that big old R161, that big barrel, and it was a little 34-inch bat, and he choked up because he wanted that ball in.
Yeah.
Whereas David Wright has a very long bat. I noticed when David's got to have a 35, I would think.
Of course, nobody chokes up anymore.
Well, Barry Bonds choked up.
That was always my contention. If the best hitter in baseball chokes up, how come nobody emulates it?
He could do whatever he wanted to do.
But
I know what you're saying.
You figure normally when somebody is successful, everybody will copy him.
And he choked up from day one.
Sure. Well, he was a leadoff hitter when he first came up.
I think Jason Kendall might still choke up.
And there are a couple here and there, but nobody who, hits the ball with great authority chokes up anymore.
Kendall's more like, remember the Nellie Fox baseball cards?
Sure. Or Felix Millan.
Yeah, they have their bats and they be choking up 3 inches on the bat.
I used to always like the way he had such an unusual stance. Dick McAuliffe.
Right. That bat high over his head in that open stance.
Yes.
3-0 to Utley, who will swing in these spots, and he does, and lifts it to right center field. But Gone with the glasses on, puts it away to end the inning. Still 5-2 Phillies. Queens. Another nice crowd gathered for the final game of this 11-game homestand. And yeah, we let those guys in too. Fernando Tatis leads off and fouls off the first offering from Cliff Lee. Fernando drove in a run with a sacrifice fly in the first inning. Hit it very well to right center.
It's interesting that Frank Core has been in the dugout. Jay Horowitz, if you're there, come on by. Let us know on what the results were of the test. We'd love to hear. I guess he's okay. I don't see a cast on him or anything. We'd love to hear.
0-2 to Tatis with Murphy and Santos to follow.
Well, just the opposite here for the two pitchers in this afternoon's game. Bobby Parnell's thrown first pitch strikes to 7 of the 21 batters he's faced. Lee now 10 for 13. Makes it a lot easier.
Both runs against Cliff Lee today have been unearned. He's now allowed only 3 earned runs in 36 innings since joining the Phillies. In fact, the last pitcher to win his first 4 starts while allowing no more than 1 run in each game for a new team, Tim Wakefield with the Red Sox back in '95. Too high, and it's 2-2 to Tatis. By the way, is Wakefield ever coming back this year?
Yes, he is. He's making the start in Penny's spot next week, Wednesday or Thursday.
He's had all sorts of body problems, right? Not arm problems.
He's got the bad calf right now, and the problem is that he's ready to pitch, but he can't back up. He's having a hard time covering first, and of course, if you lay down a bunt, well, it's hard to bunt off a knuckleball pitcher.
Hard to bunt, hard to hit.
Yes.
Easy to steal bases is about all. 2-2, bounce foul. Although Wakefield has always been quicker to the plate than the average knuckleball.
Phil Niekro was very quick to the plate.
And Niekro had a good move to first too.
Yes, he did. Lou Brock used to always moan and groan that Phil Niekro never came to a set position. That split second, the pitcher's got a hold at the belt, and he would moan and groan at the umpires.
On the inside corner, strike 3 called. Lee has his second strikeout of the day. 1 out in the home fourth. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt.
Guys, you were talking a little bit before about the Phillies being champions, and I talked to Charlie Mann earlier before the game, and I asked him what he was worried about coming into the season. He said, well, I don't know about worry, but I was interested in seeing if there would be any changes in our guys. The whole event was really bigger than I thought it would ever be. And I will say that I've seen some things a little differently, but we did some things to kind of get past last year. We took off the patches off our uniform. We tried to take some of that stuff down and put the World Series stuff away. He said one thing, though, that hasn't wavered, the effort. He thinks the effort has been there from day one. Guys?
Well, there was a time earlier this season when Charlie had to have a team meeting and kind of warn his team about complacency. I don't know whether he felt they were being complacent or they were just verging on that, because they had a pretty rough stretch back in May and June.
I think the real difficult part is that one of their key players, MVP a couple seasons ago, Jimmy Rollins, just came out of the gate and was really struggling. And when he's playing well, their whole offense rolls.
Cole Hamels will pitch the first game of this series. Game the Mets won. The only game thus far the Mets have won in this series. He's having a tough year. There's the big bomber today.
In tight to Murphy. 1-2.
I'll tell you, though, a little bit about the team. When your best pitcher is under 500 record and you're still 21 games over 500.
On the outside corner, and Lee has back-to-back call third strikes.
Well.
If you want to go, I was talking about graduate school before. You see the grip here from Cliff Lee. This is the graduate school of starting pitching. Brushes Murphy back with a high inside fastball, comes back with a low fastball, not low, but fastball on the corner away. In and out, up and down, change speeds. Seems simple. It's not, but it seems simple.
Santos hits one sharply to short, and Bruntlett is there to grab it. 1-2-3 inning for Cliff Lee in the bottom of the fourth. On to the fifth we go. The Phillies leading it 5-2. Bobby Parnell still out there for the 5th inning. Most pitches Bobby had thrown in any of his starts this year is 86. That was against the Giants when he had that terrific start. He's thrown 93 today, but he's going to stay in there for the 5th to face Ryan Howard for the 3rd time. The first 2 times, Ryan Howard has taken him deep.
Well, the first at bat, he missed right there, and there's your IOTV pitch differential. And that's an inside out. He beat him, and that's just raw strength. Here, he makes another boo-boo. You know, it over the middle again, and he turned on it, and that was a bomb.
Howard now with 34 home runs, 104 runs batted in.
And there's the big shift. Castillo at the tip of that top of the triangle out there in the outfield grass. I think
this time he starts him off away 1-0.
I think one of the big things that Howard did this year, Gary, we noticed in April, he came into camp, he lost around 25 pounds. He's really fit.
Howard has won 3 home run game in his career. That game in September of 06 against the Braves. Raul Ibanez on deck, then Pedro Feliz. And Howard rips this one right to Castillo. Second time in this series that Castillo's caught a line drive in that spot against Howard. 1 out. Now Raul Ibanez, who struck out and grounded out 0 for 2. Ken Takahashi, who's already worked a complete game in the bullpen, is up again. Just recalled today from Buffalo, with Pat Mish being sent down. And I certainly hope Mish was sent on his way with a firm handshake, because he did a great job yesterday.
That's the thing about this game, Keith. When you say it's cruel, yesterday 4 scoreless innings from Pat Mish. What's the reward? Shipped out.
Well, if he
you need a live arm. You need another arm.
If he had thrown fewer innings, he'd still be here.
Yeah.
Right?
I know. But the team needed it with Ollie only going 2/3 of an inning.
I mean, the Mets yesterday were down 6-0 before they ever came to bat. It's been a long, long time since the Mets came from 6 runs down to win. And, you know, if Brundtland is not covering the bag at second and that ball goes through, who knows? They might have come back and won that game. And Pat Mish would have been a big part of that.
That's a no good deed goes unpunished kind of deal. How about Pedro's first appearance at Citi Field was as a hitter, not a pitcher.
Ibanez rockets one up the middle, a base hit. 4th hit off Parnell. Bobby now up to 100 pitches on the afternoon, but clearly Jerry trying to nurse him through the 5th as he takes on Pedro Feliz. Feliz is at 2 ground balls to third base. First time Tatis threw him out. Second time Tatis made a great stop but threw wide of first, and Feliz was able to avoid the tag by Murphy and reach on the air. Popped it up. Santos coming back near the screen, and he made the catch. Nice play by Omir Santos for the 2nd out.
Very nice play. Ball wasn't that hit that high in the air. He didn't have much time. He raced to the screen. Beautifully done.
We saw in yesterday's ball game, Carlos Ruiz had trouble with this play. Nice play here by Santos.
Caught it right before it would have hit the screen. Of course, once it hits the screen, it's out of play. So 2 out, and now Eric Brundtland. Brundtland 1 for 2 today. When yesterday's game started, Eric Brundtland had 11 hits for the entire season. He now has 4 in his last 6 at bats. By the way, speaking of the unassisted triple play yesterday, did you see Jimmy Rollins' comment?
No.
I don't know if he was just, tweaking the Mets because that's what Jimmy likes to do.
Yeah.
He said that was a bad play for the runners to be in motion there. I mean, I couldn't disagree more. I thought it was a great play. What do you guys think?
Well, I think Castillo had already had 2 stolen bases here as the Brundtland grounds out. We'll address it next inning.
Never raise those issues with 2 outs. It's one of those days. 5-2 Phillies. We go to the bottom of the 5th inning at Citi Field. The Phillies with a 5-2 lead thanks to 2 big swings by Ryan Howard. Bobby Parnell done after 103 pitches in 5 innings. Allowed just 4 hits, but the 2 bombs enough to have him down. Bottom 3rd of the batting order against Cliff Lee. Corey Sullivan leads off. Sullivan playing because of the thumb injury to Jeff Francoeur. Jeff is back on the bench with the Mets. Still waiting for the test results. And it's taken for a strike, 0-2. Anyway, we were talking about the triple play yesterday and the fact that the runners were in motion, and Jimmy Rollins commenting afterward that it was a bad play for them to be in motion. You're down by 2 runs. Those are the tying runs in the 9th inning. So what do you think?
Well, Louis had already had 2 stolen bases on the day.
And a nice try by Howard, but Sullivan has his first hit off a left-hander this season.
I think that if Jimmy's talking about his own team, that might make sense, but this is a team than the Mets that are challenged to score, so they have to do some sexier things on the bases to try to get runners in scoring position. Murphy did a nice job too. He got off on a good following Castillo. He had a big enough jump that Ruiz would not have been able to throw him out. And you're going against Brad Lidge, who is a guy that when he's ahead in the count will bounce a lot of sliders. So everything seemed to be working in Louis and Murphy's advantage. It just got unlucky.
Plus, you had Lidge, who was struggling in that game, even though, it was unfortunate. I thought 2 errors were made behind him, and Howard missed the backhand to lead the inning off, the leadoff double. I just felt because Lidge was struggling, and it wasn't a bad play. I agree.
Hernandez takes a rip and fouls it back. Anderson Hernandez doubled run over the third base bag his first time up today. Wilson Valdez out on deck to bat for Bobby Parnell. And Cliff Lee starting to take a little extra time on the mound. Guy who normally works very quickly. Misses badly with that one. 2-1.
Just got to be careful here. It's only a 3-run ball game. It's by no means is this game over.
Ken Takahashi staying loose, getting ready to come on. And now it's 3-1 to Hernandez. This is your Bigelow's other side of the diamond quote. Charlie Manuel picked a good time to catch one, didn't he?
Oh, just that simple.
Well, I mean, there's probably never been a triple play in history in which a guy set up his own triple play.
That's
After
right.
all, both those base runners were his responsibility.
In hockey, it'd be a +1. Got 3 outs and had 2 on.
Murphy tried his best to evade the tag for the last out. Just couldn't get away. Hernandez lines one to second, Utley to first, double play. Well, Sullivan couldn't get back, and he's doubled up, 2 out.
Well, we've all done this before, and it's a tough play. You're not supposed to get doubled up. Sullivan knows he's not supposed to get doubled up, particularly when you're down 3 runs. But it happens, and it happened to Sullivan.
I thought he was safe.
I thought he was safe too on the replay.
That's one of those bad plays. You're going to be called out 9 times out of 10.
Well, it's kind of like Bruntlett's error in the 9th yesterday. It actually looked as though he threw Castillo out.
Yeah, exactly.
But Castillo was ruled safe. Wilson Valdez hitting at .219. Here's your 5th inning recap. Ryan Howard, the big story today, has driven in all 5 Phillies runs with 2 home runs, his 33rd and 34th of the year. Angel Pagan with a Little League home run in the 1st inning on the 2 Utley errors. And Cliff Lee has not allowed an earned run to date, and so it has gone for the Philly left-hander. 2-1 to Valdez.
You see, I know that there's pitch counts, Gary, but I thought the last inning for Parnell was a real strong inning. He got his curveball over. And run him out there again. Let him get a rhythm going. But, you know, these pitch counts, they put an end to everything.
And, you know, I think he showed you something also, having to face Howard again. You know, send him out there, a guy who had already taken him deep twice and retired Ryan.
Two to Valdez, and he fouls it away. Well, I think in this particular case, because Parnell had not thrown more than 86 pitches, and it's only his 4th start after working out of the bullpen all year, that it would have been hard for them to push him much farther.
Yeah, he's on a graduated system. I mean, he won't be in the 110 range until maybe his last 4 or 5 starts. Where are we? End of August now, so you probably have 6 or so left.
You see the pitching line on Parnell today. The big number, the 2 home runs.
There's Mr. Francoeur. Looks like he's all right.
He's always grinning, isn't he? Down to Feliz. Wasn't grinning last night. He was really upset after the triple play. Slammed his helmet down. Could not believe his ill fortune. 5 in the books. 5-2 Phil.
The Phillies in front of the Mets thanks to a couple of home runs from Ryan Howard tonight. You know, some of the things in the game you take for granted, and I think you watch the Phillies, you could easily take Pedro Feliz and his defense for granted, particularly his throwing. He has a little bit of a strange windup in the sense that he does wind up all the way, where a lot of guys kind of short arm it, but it seems like every time we watch this guy, his throws are perfect. So I talked to him about that today, and I said, Pedro, who taught you to throw the ball? Where did you learn to throw the ball? And he said, well, when I was a kid in the Dominican Republic, you know, we'd go out and play on the streets and play in any open land we could find, and no one really taught me how to throw. I always played shortstop and second base, but I was dying to pitch, and they would never let me pitch. He said finally they let me pitch a couple times, and then they banned him from pitching. You know why, guys? Because every pitch he threw was a strike, and they said he was too easy to hit. So I guess that's what makes sense why his throws are always on the money to first base, guys.
You want to throw it down the middle if you're an infielder.
Well, you know, there's a natural way of throwing, and some guys, and Keith, you've caught so many guys, they all have a natural kind of run to their ball. Some balls are some throws it really true. I bet you Ozzie Smith threw it very true.
Yes, he did.
A guy like Hojo that you catch had a little tail on it, didn't it, into the runner?
Hojo can do a nasty sinker to me. Hojo had to put the shin guards on over there.
Cliff Lee on deck, and then Shane Victorino. Ken Takahashi working in relief, just recalled from Buffalo today. He was pitching very well down in AAA. The 40-year-old left-hander. Popped up in foul ground. Tatis out of his reach. Takahashi has had some memorable moments against the Phillies this year. His first outing was against the Phillies when he came on in relief of Oliver Perez, and he pitched wonderfully. But then there was that game here at Citi Field in June where he gave up the 3-run homer to Raul Ibanez.
Yeah, he'd walked Utley, struck out Ryan Howard, and then that 3-run bomb was the nail in the coffin that night.
Well, that was the first series. Remember, everybody was saying how big Citi Field was, and the Mets players, and the Phillies came in here and made this park look like Ebbets Field.
Takahashi didn't pitch badly for the Mets in his first stint. The biggest problem he had, he couldn't get lefties out as he walks Bacco, the left-hand hitter, leading off in the 6th inning. Let's check in with the studio. Chris Carlin standing by for a New York State Smokers Quit Line game break. Cliff Lee up there to bunt and takes a strike. Lee has struck out in both his at-bats today. There's Billy. It's a very complicated situation with Wagner and his dealings and the Red Sox needs and what the Mets want to get out of any deal with Boston, because you've got the specter of next year hanging over it. Billy wants to be a closer next year. So if he's going to be traded to Boston, he wants an assurance that they'll let him go at the end of the year because Red Sox have a closer.
Yeah. A very talkative closer.
Well,
Yeah, how about that? What's Papelbon mouthing off for?
if you missed that, Jonathan Papelbon was quoted as saying, "Hey, our bullpen is fine. We don't need any help."
That comes from that old closer mentality now, that they want to make those comments because they're, you know, the captain of the bullpen. He should just let Theo do his thing, Billy do his thing, and they'll make the decision.
I mean, is he that insecure, or he feels that Wagner's a threat?
No, I don't think that's it. What I think it is that old thing, as Lee strikes out trying to bunt, is that relievers today and over the last 20 years have been conditioned to this notion of having to, quote, know their roles. And that's the point that Papelbon was making. He was saying, hey, our guys know their roles now. If they bring somebody else in, those roles will change. Now, you know.
Well, my suggestion to Papelbon is you just concentrate on coming in and saving games, and let the manager worry about everything else and the pitching coach take care of it.
Well, we've already seen him try to umpire at second base this year.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you can add 95 with a razor blade slider, I'll take it.
You never have enough pitching.
Victorino pops one foul, but you know, think about the complicating factors in the Mets' decision of whether to trade Wagner here, because you know, Billy's owed $2.5 million the rest of this year. He's got an option for next year with $1 million buyout. So if the Mets traded him and traded that contract, they save that money. They'd also like to get a prospect back in the deal. Popped up on the first base side. Murphy flipping the glasses down, coming over, and reaches, but just can't get there. On the other hand, if the Mets were not to trade Billy, as you look at Murphy's effort here, they could decline the option on him, but then he'd be a free agent. They could offer him arbitration, and if Billy turned it down, which you figured he would because he wants to be a closer somewhere else, the Mets would get 2 high draft picks out of that, who might be better than the player they might get in the trade from the Red Sox. So
complicated deal.
You really, if you're Omar Minaya trying to make that decision, there's a lot to factor in. Under the glove of Tatis. Down to second goes Bacco, so a potential double play grounder that could have ended the inning, and instead turns into first and second and 1 out.
Well, this should be ruled an error here. It should be Tatis' second error of the ball game. He just didn't get the glove down. He lifted the glove up and then tried to go down. You always work from the ground up.
They're going to score that one a base hit.
Where were these scorekeepers when I played? My goodness.
Well, you know what I think it is? There have been 5 errors today. They're trying to.
I'd have been a lifetime 300 hitter.
They're trying to be nice.
Wound up 297. It would have been 3 points on my average right there with these guys.
What are you saying? The over and under was 5 today?
I'm just saying that, you know, trying to avoid piling on.
Okay.
But I agree, it should have been an error. One and one to Worth. Worth has walked twice already and scored a run, 0 for 1.
Well, Gary, you mentioned it before as he faces the right-hander here, Worth. Takahashi, left-handers were hitting 429 off him, and the specter of Utley and Howard coming up next.
Now it's 3 and 1. Well, if you'll remember that game where Ibanez hit the 3-run homer, and Jerry made the decision to bring him in against the left-hand hitters, despite the fact that I think at the time they were hitting 440 against him. And he walks Worth, and now the bases are loaded. So a rough return so far for Takahashi, and it's about to get more difficult with Utley and Howard coming up.
Two walks. He did get a ground ball off the bat of Victorino. That could have been 2.
So Dan Worthen on the phone. And we'll get more action in the Mets bullpen.
Bullpen coach Randy Neiman. There's our second left-hander out of the bullpen in 86 right there, Mr. Neiman.
Well, that's another 5 walks for the Mets pitching staff today. That's 487 this year, the most in the National League. And now Utley takes off the plate for ball 1. Albert descends, next man up in the Mets bullpen. Utley has walked and flied out twice, 0 for 2. And Takahashi falls behind 2-0. This all started when Takahashi walked the leadoff hitter, Paul Bacco. He's now at third. Victorino at second, and Worth at first with 1 out. Popped up. Infield fly rule should be called if it's fair, but it'll drift into foul ground, and Tatis squeezes it for the 2nd out. So there's a big out for Takahashi as he gets through Utley. Now he's got to deal with Howard. Howard already has a 3-run homer and a 2-run homer today. Now bats here with the bases loaded. Lined out to second base his last at bat. Robbie Parnell still hanging out in the dugout. Takahashi, the 40-year-old rookie, facing the former National League MVP. And did he hold the swing? Nope, he went around. Mark Wagner with the call, 0-1.
He's probably looking for a fastball, a launch. I don't think he swung, but.
One and one to Howard. Howard has 8 career grand slams, including 3 this season. Takahashi trying to fight his way out of a mess. One. Little looper foul that'll land untouched. And it's 1-2.
Well, there's the first home run, inside out, opposite field, 3-0 early. This one was no doubt. Make that 5.
Pepsi Porch, watch out, Kevin.
Wow.
Now Takahashi ahead 1-2. Roundhouse foul as he got in on Howard. Now Ryan Howard has had the most home runs in the major leagues over the last 4 years. 2006 his MVP season.
Looks like he's going to have another 40 home run season. Sure, he's got 6 in him before the year ends.
Pujols hit his 40th in yesterday's ball game.
How about those Cardinals?
1-2. Just missed. Takahashi thought he had it. He was almost begging for it as he came off the mound, but got no satisfaction from Rick Reed.
Nope, away. And there's the difference in Howard. Like I said earlier, a much better eye at the plate. Oh, lucky the umpire didn't see him.
So he's got to go after him again. Breaking ball struck him out. Takahashi gets himself out of big-time trouble, getting Utley to pop up and striking out Howard. 5 in the books, 5-2 Phillies. Is down, sun is out.
How beautiful is that?
Look over the Brooklyn Bridge to the Manhattan Bridge and out beyond to Manhattan.
Ronnie and I used to crawl around there a few times in our day.
Crawl being the real word too sometimes.
On the bridges? Could be dangerous.
How about all those trees that got uprooted in Central Park?
Oh, the storm the other night?
Yeah.
The wind
was big time.
Wow.
Still have plenty of trees here in Flushing. Angel Pagan had a base hit his last time up. Now has a 9-game hitting streak as the Mets present the top of the order against Cliff Lee in the bottom of the 6th. Mets with 2 unearned runs on 4 hits this afternoon against Lee. This is the 8th Cy Young Award winner the Mets have faced this season. Lee, of course, won the American League Cy Young last year. They've already faced Lincecum, Peavy, Sabathia, Carpenter, Zito, Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez. And the Mets are 4-3 in those first 7 games.
Very good.
Oh, and 2 to Pagan, leading off in the home 6th. And the breaking ball misses 1-2. Well, this is Lee before the inning began.
Sorry, Gary. He does the same thing every time. Loosens up that arm and kind of pretends, pantomimes to throw that ball to second base. Probably a visualization kind of thing, Keith.
The other thing he does that we didn't see there is he sprints out to the mound before each inning.
Love it. Love it. I never ran off the mound. Always ran on to the mound in between innings. Always. But I never ran off the mound until I got to Oakland.
Down to third. Feliz with the running throw. Close play, but he got him. 1 out. Another perfectly accurate throw by Pedro Feliz.
Well, he's got to charge the ball, and he knows he can't set. Throwing on the run. Perfect. Nice stretch by Howard. And Howard, for the first time this series, extended his hand, his glove hand, out on a close play. Howard has a very bad habit on a close plays not reaching out to the ball to cut that distance down, catching it closer to his body. It happened yesterday.
Luis Castillo so far suffering through a rare 0 for 2 after 6 consecutive multiple hit games. Trying to break through against Lee. And takes a fastball for a strike. 0-2. Lee's been getting ahead of just about everybody today.
Wow.
15 of 20 batters, first pitch strikes.
It's not that tough, is it?
Well, obviously it is.
Not for him.
Most guys can't do that.
He is just out there. He is a machine. And you can just see his demeanor, effortless motion. He could probably pitch 14.
Well, you know, he's going to turn 31 next week. And there's strike 3 called and Castillo down looking. And, you know, everybody knows he was 22-3 for the Indians last year and won the Cy Young.
He'll cut the ball on the right-hander, and then sometimes he'll throw that straight one. A little 2 miles an hour faster, stay true on that inside corner.
But 2 years ago, Cliff Lee wound up in the minor leagues. I mean, this is a guy who had some success with the Indians and hit rock bottom before bouncing back last year. Here's Sheffield, and he takes a strike. Let's check in with Kevin.
Gary, I talked to Cliff about that stint. He said they wanted me to work on 2 things. They wanted me to get my breaking ball over for a strike, and they really wanted me to get my fastball on the inside quarter to right-handers. I did both, wound up in the bullpen. And I asked him, well, you know, did it help? I mean, is that the reason for the turnaround and, you know, you coming back and winning the Cy Young? He said, I don't know. I don't know if I could have worked on that in the major leagues, but talking to him, I can tell you one thing. It didn't really phase him either way. He didn't get too huffy and puffy over it. He just did it. And, well, obviously he is where he is today.
Well, watching him pitch, if you watch him closely, he's the kind of guy you can see that brain of his is working overtime. 91 pitches. Look at that great strikes to ball ratio. And you can almost see that he's 2 or 3 pitches ahead of this pitch right now. So he's thinking there, okay, he's cut one in for a strike on Sheffield. Then he cut one in and Sheffield pulled it foul. He said, okay, I'm going to miss in a little bit more. And now it opens up the outside part of the plate if he wants to go there.
Sheffield hit a ball the other way in the first inning. A fly ball that fell in along the right field line and then bounced past Jason Worth and went for a triple.
Wow.
Strikeout to walk ratio during this 7-game winning streak. 48-6. Stunning. And Sheffield takes another one into right field. Just a little chip shot for his second hit of the day.
Pretty good hitting by Sheff right there. This is a good pitch. After being pounded inside, maybe a little bit too. No, that's a good pitch.
That's a good pitch.
You tip your hat. But you know what? Sheffield's not going to take you to the bridge on that pitch. If you look at this lineup, there's just basically, I mean, Sheff's the power guy in this lineup. I mean, Tatis, you have to be careful. He's got pop.
Tatis hit a deep sacrifice fly to right back in the first inning. 6 home runs this year. That's the second most in this lineup today. I shouldn't say that. Murphy has 7. Johan Santana opens the road trip in Florida tomorrow. 6:30 on SNY. That gets away from Baco, and Sheffield down to second on the wild pitch. 7th wild pitch of the year for Cliff Lee.
Just held on to that fastball way too long. Good try by Baco. Did everything he could to get his body in front of it.
Sean West will be on the mound for the Marlins tomorrow, the young left-hander, as Santana tries again for his 14th win. 6:30 on SNY.
West had a nice game against the Mets earlier this year, didn't he?
The Marlins very much in contention. They lost a tough game to the Braves yesterday, but they're 7.5 out in the division, 5 back in the wild card, and very much alive. 2-2 now to Tatis.
Well, the only other game scheduled in the National League is Milwaukee, Washington, and a big one in Colorado.
It's the final game of that series.
The Giants need to win that one. They need to get a split out there in Colorado. Zito
against Marquee.
Yesterday, Ubaldo Jimenez, a strong 8 innings for the Rockies, who now are 3 games up on the Giants in that wild card. Rockies also suffered one of the bizarre injuries of the season when their red-hot outfielder Carlos Gonzalez cut his palm with a steak knife, putting the dinner dishes in the sink.
Always put the point down.
It's an excellent point. But Tim Lincecum started that game yesterday for the Giants, and every time Lincecum starts and doesn't win, that's a big blow to San Francisco.
Well, they left him in there to face Seth Smith with, I think it was his 118th, 119th pitch. And he had a changeup and 2-run bomb.
Seventh inning.
Didn't he have a no-no through 5?
He did.
Out to right field. Jason Worth tracking it. And that retires the side. 6 in the books. Get your condiments. 5-2 Philly. Raul Ibanez leads off against Ken Takahashi, who worked himself in and out of trouble in the 6th inning. Ibanez 1 for 3, single to center field his last time up. Takahashi working in back of Bobby Parnell, who went the first 5 innings today. Gave up 5 runs and 4 hits. Takahashi worked out of a bases loaded jam in the 6th, getting Utley to foul out, and Howard struck out. Ibanez hits one well to center, chasing Pagan back, and Angel there to make the grab, one out. He got a good jump on that ball. So 1 away. Weekdays at 5:30 p.m. Brian Custer and Brandon Tierney bring you 9 innings of news, debate, and insider info on the hottest New York sports stories of the day. In the Wheelhouse, weekdays at 5:30, only on SNY. Here's Pedro Feliz, who's gone 0 for 3 today. And he's going to face a new pitcher. Jerry Manuel on his way out to the mound. He's got Elmer Descends up in the bullpen. It'll bring in the right-hander to face Feliz. So Takahashi done after an inning in the third. And the Mets make a pitching change, brought to you by Lincoln Mercury. We'll be right back. Elmer descends on for the third straight day, facing Pedro Feliz with one out in the seventh.
Well, Elmer's been doing a nice job. This is one of his strengths, is that he can throw every single day.
Ken Takahashi in his return to the major leagues, an inning and a third, no runs, one hit. Feliz pops one up in foul ground. Santos gives a look, but that's out of play. 2-1. Well, we asked our Aflac trivia question. Let's try to answer it. Winning pitchers for the Mets in their 3-game sweep of the Braves. Well, you know Nolan Ryan won game
Taylor
3.
won one, I believe.
That was game 2.
I thought Seaver
won game 1.
I thought Seaver won.
First game was 9-5.
Yeah.
Second game was 11-6. The third game was 7-4 for a team that couldn't hit.
That's right. The Mets scored 27 runs in that series.
So who were the Brave pitchers? Was that Pat Jarvis back then?
Ron Reed.
Ron Reed, yeah.
Well, Henry Aaron had quite a series. People that watched that series, I'm sure you did, Gary, said he hit ropes after rope after rope. 3 home runs in the series.
In shallow right, Sullivan, and Castillo goes out at the last moment and grabs it. Sullivan was tentative, and so Castillo had to make the lunge at the last moment.
Well, Sullivan was playing way deep, and now Louis realizes he's not going to get there and took charge. Nice play. Very nice play.
So 2 out of the inning, and now Bruntlett the batter. Bruntlett is 1 for 3 today, singled back in the third. Pedro Feliciano up in the bullpen. To answer your question, Keith, Niekro started the first game, Ron Reed the second, and Pat Jarvis the third. This was the final out of game 3 at Shea Stadium in that 3-game sweep.
To see Seaver off that bench, wow.
How about Clendenin? He was leaped out of that off that bench too.
And you see all those fans coming down on the field. I was one of them that day.
Yeah, you were?
Made it all the way down from the upper deck.
Wow.
In left field, section 48, row R.
Did you destroy the field?
I took my little piece.
Very nice.
You gotta behave yourself.
I was 11. Come on.
No restraint.
1-2 to Bruntlett in the dirt. 2-2.
Well, there was grave concern, wasn't there, about the condition of the field, Gary?
Well, no question, because the World Series, of course, was going to be there. I guess it was 8 days later. This was a Monday afternoon, so the first home game was the following Tuesday.
There you are. It's you.
I didn't get down that quick. It could have been me, though. Anderson Hernandez guns out Bruntlett, and that ends the inning. 7th inning stretch. 5-2 Phillies. And with the official DVD, the New York Mets Vintage World Series films. From Tom Seaver to Juan Swoboda, this DVD showcases the legends and excitement of the '69 Mets. Order your DVD now at Mets.com/shop.
I think I'm going to get that. Look at that little sweetheart.
A young Mets fan preparing for battle. Chattanooga Park up in the Phillies bullpen as Cliff Lee gets set to start the 7th inning.
Ronnie, you had all boys, right?
Yep, 2 boys.
Had all girls.
Daniel Murphy will lead off in the home 7th. It'll be Murphy, then Santos and Sullivan against Cliff Lee. And Billy Wagner up in the Mets bullpen, perhaps for the final time, as Murphy hits one deep to center field. Back goes Victorino. Going back, it's over his head, and it hops up against the wall. Murphy pulls in at second with a leadoff double. That's a 10-game hitting streak now for Daniel Murphy.
Well, nicely done by Murph. He gets a slider here up. Beautiful, stayed right in. And that's after being struck out last time after he got some chin music on a called third strike. Away. First ball hitting. Beautiful.
He said, I'm not going to get the 2 strikes this time, right? Well, you got to know if you're a hitter that Lee is going to throw a first pitch strike. You got to be ready to swing. Murph was.
So now Santos, who has struck out and grounded out, 0 for 2. Cliff Lee has lasted at least 7 full innings in each of his last 8 starts. See whether he's able to get through this 7th inning today, after giving up that leadoff double, up to 103 pitches on the afternoon. Mets now with 6 hits off Lee. And Santos chases the changeup, and it's 1-1.
Well, what's interesting about Cliff Lee is that he has thrown very few curveballs and changeups so far. So when he does, that's the kind of swing you get.
Oh, 0-2 to Santos, and he rifles one foul. Corey Sullivan waiting on deck. Mets got both their runs in the first inning. Both were unearned. Too high. Santos has driven in a couple of runs in this series. Chan Ho Park getting ready.
I think Mr. Lee is going to double up inside here.
Jammed him and he popped up right near the mound. And Lee's going to take it himself. I don't think anybody else was going to get there.
He looked around a few times, but no one really wanted the baseball, so he had to make the play. Wasn't hit high enough. That was the problem for the infielders.
Right, and watch Bruntlett covers third very nicely. Feliz came in. Bruntlett wisely went to the unoccupied base.
So 1 out. Murphy's still at second. Corey Sullivan coming up. Sullivan has one of the Mets' 6 hits. Singled to right in the 5th, then got doubled off first base on a line drive. Cliff Lee began his career in the Montreal Expos organization, taken out of the University of Arkansas. He was involved in one of the more lopsided prospect for veteran deals in Major League history. It was Cliff Lee, Grady Sizemore, and Brandon Phillips all traded to Cleveland for Bartolo Colon, and Tim Drew was the throw-in in that deal.
Wow.
Now, there were some extenuating circumstances. Omar Minaya was the GM in Montreal who traded those 3 prospects, but at the time, the feeling was that the Expos were going to be contracted, that they were going to cease to exist. So he figured, might as well win now.
Yeah.
But that's an amazing prize package for the Indians with Sizemore and Lee and Phillips. And Phillips wound up starring in Cincinnati, not in Cleveland, but the other 2 guys were cornerstones of the Indians franchise the last half dozen years. Sullivan hits it well to left field, chasing Ibanez back, but he's there. And that's the 2nd out, and Murphy holds at second.
You know, talking about that, Gary, it's got to be tough if you are an Indians fan, right? And you're watching your team struggle through another tough season. They've been picked the last 2 years to have good years. And 2 successive years, you traded your best pitcher, CC Sabathia, to Milwaukee last year. He's now with the Yankees. And trading Cliff Lee this year. You know, you're trying to stockpile some minor league talent, but at the same time, as a fan base, you're not getting to watch these great pitchers pitch.
Well, they did have one very nice thing happen for them yesterday. Fausto Carmona, who had a great year 2 years ago, came back and pitched well and won for them. And you know, if he can come back and be the kind of starter he was 2 years ago, that's huge for that franchise.
Won 19 games, I think, that year.
Anderson Hernandez has hit a double over the third base bag and then lined into a double play. And he strokes this one foul, and it's 0-2. The Mets don't have a right-handed bat available. Obviously, Jeff Francoeur is not able to swing a bat with the thumb injury, and so Jeremy Reed is out on deck to pinch hit if Hernandez can keep the inning going. Mets only have a 4-man bench as it is. There's Reed. And a bad swing by Hernandez to end the inning. 5 strikeouts now for Cliff Lee. Looks like Billy Wagner's going to come on to the 8th. 5-2 Phillies. For the final time in the Mets uniform, Billy Wagner takes the mound.
Well, coming back from elbow ligament replacement surgery. So look at Cliff Lee, 6th all time with 385 saves, 3rd amongst active pitchers.
Well, by now you know the story. Mets have until 1 o'clock tomorrow to decide whether to make a deal with the Red Sox, who claim Billy on waivers, or whether to pull him back and keep him for the rest of the year. And those negotiations are ongoing. Paul Bacco leads off in the 8th inning against Wagner, who had a terrific return to action. Bounced off the foot of Bacco. Well, we have a medical report now on Jeff Francoeur just in. Jeff did suffer a torn ligament in his left thumb. However, he is listed day to day, much as was the case with Alex Cora, because it's his non-throwing hand. He's going to try and play through it. Now, you know, Cora had both thumb ligaments torn and managed to play through it, so Jeff's going to try and do the same. Off the plate, Bacco 2-1. Here's the play yesterday. And that's where the thumb hit the ground, and you can see the pain etched in his face. Bacco lifts one to shallow right. Sullivan angling in. 1 away. Time to check in with the studio. Let's join Chris Carlin for a New York State Smokers Quit Line game break. The headdress is back on as Ben Francisco comes up to pinch hit for Cliff Lee. So Lee is done after 7 innings in which he did not allow an earned run. Francisco was the throw-in in the deal that brought Lee to the Phillies, and he's done a nice job so far. 1-1. So Chan-Ho Park will be on to pitch the bottom of the 8th. Wagner made his return to action against the Braves on Thursday and came back in spectacular fashion. A 1-2-3 8th inning. He struck out the first batter to face him and the last batter to face him. Francisco Rodriguez, who has not worked in a few days, getting himself ready to pitch the 9th, regardless of the score. Francisco pulls one foul. 2-2. Join the roundtable as Jonas Schwartz, Joe Beningo, and the Daily News writers behind the biggest New York sports stories bring the back pages to life with fast-paced sports debate on Daily News Live, presented by Citi, weekdays at 5 p.m. right here on SNY. 2-2. On the inside corner, strike 3 call.
Nice pitch by Billy here. Just spots that fastball inside. Beats Francisco. That ball came back over the plate. Nice pitch.
There's Jeff.
Talking with trainer Ray Ramirez. We'll try and figure out a way to make that thumb comfortable for Jeff to go out and play.
Well, I know that the catchers wear them sometimes. You can put a guard over your thumb and inside of your gloves, so that can protect it as far as defensively. I just don't know about the offense.
Well, Cora had that guard for his throwing hand, but Cora's a different kind of hitter than Jeff Francoeur, right?
Yes. I mean, you know, he has that short swing, slaps the ball around. Francoeur has that big swing.
Shane Victorino now with a 3-0 count. And Victorino takes ball 4, and that is the first base runner against Wagner this season. 6 batters, but
still.
Here's the results of your Toyota Tex poll, and it's a landslide. The position you think the Mets need to upgrade the most: starting pitcher.
Pitching.
Pitching,
Plural.
pitching. Well, we mentioned it earlier. Once you get past Johan Santana in this rotation, it has been a big problem all year. Jason Worth up with 2 on the runner at first. Worth has walked 3 times today. Met pitchers have issued 23 walks in this 4-game series. Tim Redding, the best of the starters for the Mets in this series. We know he can do it against the Phillies. Now we'll see if he can do it against everybody else.
That's right.
He'll face the Marlins on Thursday afternoon. He has had uncanny success in his career against Philadelphia, including twice this season.
Well, I think that was all part of some of the reasoning to bring him over. Omar Minaya to bring Redding here, and I thought it was a good move to bring Redding over, and he has just not panned out. He has had just a difficult year.
But that game Saturday was certainly very encouraging. So
yeah, 1 hit over 5 innings.
So we'll see whether Tim can parlay that into some success coming down the stretch. 1-1 to Jason Worth. And a look in on Victorino, who has a stolen base today. That came back in the first inning. Victorino taking his lead. He's taking off. No throw by Santos, who spikes it, but Victorino holds it second. I can't remember the last time I saw that. Just trying to hang on to the baseball and lost it.
Well, it was such a big jump, and he realizes right now, don't throw it. I've got no chance.
You know, we have seen some very strange things the last couple of days. This is just the latest.
Oh boy. No harm, no foul.
So Victorino has his second stolen base of the day. Brian Schneider empathizing. 20 steals on the season for Victorino, so he's in scoring position with 2 out. Two and 1 the count to Worth, and Victorino stealing third, but Worth fouls it off. He got a huge running jump. Perhaps taking a page out of the book of Jason Worth, who stole second and third against Wagner a couple of years ago.
And he had this one stolen. But I've always been one to question with 2 outs. Stealing when you're already in scoring position.
Well, it's such an important run for the Mets not to give up, that your defensive position players, you want them in their position.
Exactly. And also as a hitter, it changes now your approach in this at bat, where the runner was on first, an extra base hit. You have to get an extra base hit to drive in the run. Now you can shorten up. This is a big run to drive in. A base hit gives you that 4-run lead.
Victorino, I would assume, is running on his own. Phillies base running coach is Davey Lopes, who stole 557 base hits in his career.
I'll tell you, Davey Lopes was a fine player.
Davey Lopes from East Providence, Rhode Island.
He was part of that Albuquerque team in the Pacific Coast League that won every year. Lasorda was managed him. It was Garvey, it was Say, it was Bill Russell, and it was Lopes, and they couldn't break into the big leagues. They all came in when they were like 27, 28 years old.
2-2 to Worth. Struck him out. Well, if Billy Wagner's Mets career ends there, he finishes with a flourish. Striking out Worth. Still 5-2 Phils. SNY is brought to you by Acela, by Volkswagen, and by AT&T. Your world delivered.
Who's spelling in those promos, Garrett?
I don't know, but we recovered nicely, didn't we?
Yes, you did.
Wonderful. Cliff Lee done after 7 innings, 111 pitches, no earned runs today, sitting next to Sam Perlazzo, former Mets and now Phillies third base coach. Chan-Ho Park's been magnificent the second half of the year.
He really has. Started in the rotation for the Phillies and really could not get the job done, but has been great for them out of the bullpen. There was 71 strikeouts and 77 in the third innings pitched.
Another successful outing for Billy Wagner. That's 2 for 2 for Billy. Now the question is, tomorrow after 1 o'clock, will he be a Met or will he be with the Red Sox?
Boy, it's got to be a weird thing, huh? Sitting on that bench.
Jeremy Reed hits one slowly. Park can't get it. Shoveled by Utley. Got him!
Oh, what a play.
What a great play by Chase Utley.
What a play. No time to throw. Nice shovel. And that's the right call. Just out of the reach of Park. It's an easier play for a left-hander there with the glove on the other hand. He has to shift his body around to get his glove to face Howard. That's just a beautiful play.
Well, he was fortunate that Park didn't deflect that ball more than he did and kept him on line to make the play.
Well, that's the Utley we know, not the one in the first inning.
He was just a little late getting to the party today.
That's right.
Here's Angel Pagan, who hit the pop-up that Utley dropped and then threw away in the first inning, handing the Mets a run.
There's
that brace on the left thumb of Jeff Francoeur.
That's just so he can't bend it, keep it stabilized.
But can you play with that on your hand?
We'll find out. And like you said earlier, Gary Ronnie, he's got a big full swing, Francoeur, and he hangs on with both hands to the bat. Oh, good slider.
1-2 to Pagan. By the way, just the fact of Jeff Francoeur sitting in the dugout and not playing is a very unusual sight.
Yes, that's right.
Now he plays every day.
If you can throw the slider right there every time, you're going to have a lot of success.
On the inside corner, strike 3 called. Pagan down looking for the second out.
Look at this movement, Ronnie. Wow.
Starts on the inside corner, bends right back and true, and no chance for the left-handed hitter, especially after swinging that ball down and in.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Luis Castillo, who's been blanked today after 6 consecutive multiple hit games. By the way, Cliff Lee with the 7 innings today, no earned runs. His earned run average as a Philly is down to 0.68 through his first 5 starts.
Wow. Did you do that with your calculator, Gare?
Did. I didn't do it in my head, I promise.
What's the formula again? I forget.
That's earned runs times 9 divided by innings pitched.
Thank you. And if it's 2/3 or 1/3, you got to go 3-3-3 because it's infinite, right?
It
and
is
6-6-6 is infinite.
It is infinite.
Okay.
Yes. Repeater.
It's the 0-2.
Fouled off. I'm glad I've got a math major in the booth. Tonight after the post game, it's 30 minutes of highlights, analysis, and in-depth coverage of all things New York sports on Geico Sports Night. Tonight after the post game and at 1 a.m. right here on SNY. History was your best subject in school, though, right?
Yes, history, and I liked writing actually. Maybe it was creative writing in those days. Was that what it was called when I was a kid growing up? I used to love the creative writing.
Chan-Ho Park thought he had strike 3. Watch this pitch, similar to the one thrown to Pagan.
Oh,
Baco pulled it back over. That ball's inside.
Well, we've seen Takahashi and Park today walking off the mound and not getting the call. 2-2 to Castillo. Where would you have gone to college? You're going to go to Stanford?
I was going to go to Cal.
Cal
on a full ride.
Your brother went to Cal, right?
Yeah, football, baseball. And I was recruited by Stanford. I went down during spring football practice, Plunkett years, Jim Plunkett years, and I stayed over the weekend in a fraternity. And I saw those football players. I said, I'm playing baseball.
Blanca to Vataha.
Yes. Castillo retired. If you'd gone to Berkeley, you would have been a radical.
No chance.
5-2 Phillies as we go to the ninth at Citi Field.
My dad would have whipped me.
On to pitch the ninth. First, let's take another look at this glove flip by Utley.
We're going to freeze it right when he makes. See, now the key here is you cannot close your glove over the ball. You have your fingers spread out open. The glove is open, so you can shovel it. The minute you close your hand, you're taking a chance of the glove getting in the way of the webbing and preventing the toss. And that's really that's not an easy play. Very nice. It's an unusual play. It's an instinctual play. It's not your average ground ball to second base, throw to first. I mean, it's something you got to think on the fly, and that's instincts, which Utley has.
Well, how do you keep it from getting caught in the webbing when you make that flip?
Well, by having your glove open, and maybe we can use.
You can't have it wide open, can you?
Well, see, right here. See, it's in his web. Now he closes. Now he opens. The first thing he does is open. He spreads his hands again. And that is the key. That was beautifully done, Mr. Webb, with the camera work.
Well, who would be better than Mr. Webb at showing that play?
The only people that practice that are the pitchers in the fielding practice, because they will always be rolled out a bunt and they try to force that ball to the catcher in case of a suicide squeeze.
Absolutely. Pitchers have to work on that, no question. And really, third baseman and first baseman should work on that too, because they have potential of fielding a squeeze play too.
You ever getting out at the plate on a squeeze from first base?
I forget.
Because normally, if you're going to get it out, it's the pitcher who's going to have to handle the ball.
Normally,
right?
It's the pitcher.
I've seen Ronnie do that.
Yeah.
Well, Ronnie was a very fine fielder.
3-2 to Utley, leading off the ninth as Brian Stokes gets up. Got the three left-hand hitters up here, though. Utley, Howard, and Ibanez against Feliciano, who's making his 69th appearance of the year. Last year set a club record with 86.
What did you do, Ronnie? In that, was it 87 when you went in September when you went down to barehand that swinging? Was it a swinging bunt or a bunt?
Well, it was a bunt by Vince Coleman down the first base line.
Down the left field line toward the corner. Sheffield won't get there, and it's a fair ball. Utley to second, takes a turn and holds on with a leadoff double.
Well, they're not playing Utley down the line. Remember now, all this whole series, the infield has played Utley to dead pull. Had a big shift on him. There's Brad Lidge again going to come in 3 days in a row. 3 days in a row? Yes.
Well, it's a safe situation if it stays a 3-run game. Ryan Howard already has 2 home runs today, a 3-run homer back in the first, a 2-run homer in the third. And now he'll face Feliciano, who has had the upper hand against Howard in their head-to-head meetings.
Where do the Phillies go from here? Out of
Pittsburgh.
And they have an off day or not?
No.
Nope.
Okay. You think maybe the Furries will be there for him?
You know, they were in Denver recently. Could be waiting for you there. There's a strike to Howard, who is just 4 for 28 in his career against Feliciano.
Good pitch. That's what I'd like to see Pedro do a little more of. His pitch to left-handers inside, but Pedro can tend to live on the outside corner. This was with intent, Ronnie. A fastball in. That's going to lock anybody up. Good pitch. Now he's 0-2. He can monkey around anything he wants.
And the slider just missed, and he went around strike 3.
Boy.
Wow, Mark Wagner getting very picky with Ryan Howard. Wow.
Not. Oh, man. Oh, well.
Certainly did not look like a swing.
I just guess if I was playing today, I'd have to come to terms with it, Ronnie. You know, it is what it is. It's almost automatic. Let's see. Boy, no breaking the wrist. I don't know what. Oh, well.
It's supposed to be about intent, and there certainly appeared to be no intent to swing. That's 2 strikeouts today for Howard and 150 this year. The 4th straight year that Howard has struck out at least 150 times. In fact, each of the last 2 years he struck out 199. He'll probably be right around that this year.
You know what? When you strike out that much and you drive in 130 30 runs and hit 40 plus and score 100, that makes up for it.
Well, Mark Reynolds up to 170. He's probably going to break his own record that he set last year of 204.
How about that series he had here at Citi Field? That was the most impressive power display of any player this year, the first year at Citi.
4 home runs in just 3 games because he didn't play one of those 4 games. 1 and 2 to Ibanez. Looking ahead to the bottom of the 9th, the Mets will have 3, 4, and 5 in their order coming up. Sheffield, Tatis, and Murphy. Bobby Parnell on the hook in this game, hoping the Mets can get him off. Still 1 and 2 to Ibanez. Feliciano ahead 1 and 2. And the slider misses 2 and 2. Been a rough go for Ibanez as Pedro Feliz waits next. Fouled away.
Last 2 at bats. I'll go ahead with the promo here. Is it spelled properly?
Tomorrow, spelled properly, at 6:30 p.m., Johan Santana mans the mound as the Mets start their series against Dan Uggla and the Marlins at what they now call Landshark Stadium. Mets Marlins coverage begins with KFC pregame live tomorrow at 6:30 only on SNY. They even spelled Uggla right. 2 G's. Off the corner, and it's 3 and 2.
How many names does that stadium have now?
Well, it was originally Joe Robbie Stadium.
Yeah.
Then it was Pro Player Stadium. It has been Dolphin Stadium. It's Landshark Stadium, but only for this year. It's very strange. And it reverts to being Dolphin Stadium again during football season.
Landshark, like Jimmy Buffett Landshark?
Yeah, I believe that's right.
Saturday Night Live.
Got to be a parrot head to go. Pancho, that's right. Candygram.
What was that? Bellucci was the land shark? I forget that stupid skit.
I think it was Chevy Chase.
Yes.
3-2, and Ibanez hits it to left field. Sheffield got a late start back, and he won't get there. And it bounces away from him off the wall. Utley scores easily. Ibanez stops at second with an RBI double, and the Phillies have tacked on a run to make it 6-2.
Well, Chef got a bad break on this ball, and it was too late. Once he broke in and hesitated, he's not moving the way he used to, and sure, this ball should have been caught, but he misplayed it. And that's a big run right there.
So a couple of doubles by left-hand hitters off Feliciano in the ninth. He will exit. Brian Stokes will come on. Phillies have added a run and lead 6-2. We'll be right back.
Rose Bowl is such a great place to watch a game.
Brian Stokes is on to face Pedro Feliz in the top of the ninth.
Well, Brian Stokes has inherited base runners. Last 18, he's tied 16. So only 2 have scored so far.
And Jimmy Rollins has come out on deck to be a pinch hitter for Eric Bruntlett. So Jimmy's day off is about to end. 2-0 the count to Feliz, who's 0 for 4 on the day. He's had a couple of nice plays made against him the last 2 at-bats. Omir Santos caught one right at the backstop screen in the 5th, and then Castillo made a lunging grab in shallow right field in the 7th. Stokes, the 6th Met pitcher of the day. Bobby Parnell lasted 5 in his 4th career start and gave up 5 runs and 4 hits. Ken Takahashi an inning and a third in his return to the big leagues. No runs, a hit. Elmer DeSenz retired his only 2 batters. Billy Wagner pitched a hitless 8th in what could have been his final outing as a Met. And now Pedro Feliciano's given up a run, retiring just 1 batter in the 9th. 3-1 to Feliz, and that's ball 4, and Feliz is aboard. So Stokes walks the first man to face him, and that is 7 walks by Met pitching today. And now Rollins will come up for a rare pinch hitting assignment. Rollins has only had 15 career at-bats as a pinch hitter, 2 for 15, but one of those 2 was a pinch home run against the Padres back in April of this year.
He always gets the business, doesn't he, from the Mets fans, Jimmy Rollins?
Gets the cheers from a lot of Philly fans and the boos from the Metsies.
Well, Jimmy, started the whole Met-Philly rivalry heat with his team to beat comment a few years back.
And he backed it up.
And he never backed off it either, to his credit.
Said something too at the parade, didn't he? When they won the World Championship and they all gathered, he said something about referring to Santana, saying, it takes more than one player, getting one player in the winter to win a World Championship, something like that. Always giving the needle to the Mets.
It's one well to right center field. Sullivan getting back in the gap, and Sullivan and Pagan makes the catch. Tagging at second as Ibanez going to third, but it looked like Sullivan was calling, and Pagan at the last moment made the play.
Well, they both had it, but the center fielder is the traffic cop here. And Sullivan correctly defers to Pagan. Nice play. That had a lot of hang time. And there's Ibanez halfway. Perfect. See how he's not going back and forth? Makes his read, tags up. That's how it's done. Let's see Mr. Feliz here. Beautiful. It's that simple, kids. Very simple. Don't have to waste any energy in that situation by going back and forth.
A little concern for Pagan at the end of that play, because if you remember earlier this season, he suffered a groin injury running after a fly ball, and he stopped very awkwardly here. See, as he took that step and kind of fell over after making the throw back in, but he appears to be okay. Injuries have been the bane of Pagan's Mets career in the last couple of years. 0-2 to Paul Bacco. He had the shoulder injury he suffered diving into the stands in LA, and then he had the elbow problem this spring, and then the groin problem running after a fly ball. And for as well as Angel has played, those injuries have always seemed to stop his progress.
Well, he's not drinking the coffee anymore, I understand.
Doing a little more hydrating. 1-2 to Bacco. Paul Bacco, who was in spring training with the Cubs this year, they let him go. Phillies signed him as a free agent in May, and wound up forcing Chris Coast out of a job. Coast wound up in Houston. Swing and a miss, and Stokes strikes out Bacco to end the inning. So a nice outing for Stokes. Phillies, though, add a run and lead 6-2 as the Mets come up for the final time in the bottom of the ninth. IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. By Geico. By Toyota. And by Citi. Citi never sleeps. Jimmy Rollins, after pinch hitting, stays in the game at shortstop. And Brad Lidge, even though it's a non-save situation, will come on and try and close it for the Phillies for the third straight day.
Interesting that they would go to Lidge here in this non-save situation, but he has not been on top of his game, so they want to throw him out there as much as they can. They get him ready for if they go to the postseason.
Diego Martinez, who picked up his second victory for the Phillies yesterday, looking on. Lidge saved that one, but not without a whole lot of aggravation in the ninth inning. Errors by Howard and by Bruntlett, an infield hit that could have been a third error in the inning, but then a game-ending triple play. Here's Sheffield to lead off, and he takes a wild swing, 0-1. Gary today is 2 for 3. Both times has hit the ball to right field. Cliff Lee in line to go 5-0 as a Philly. Now 0.68 is his ERA in those 5 starts. Popped up in foul ground. Howard hoping for a play, but it's on the dugout roof. By the way, if Lee wins today, he will have won 8 consecutive starts going back to his final 3 with Cleveland.
5-0 with the Phils.
Last time he had a start when he didn't win, July 10th, before the All-Star break.
Wow. What a string.
Oh, 2 to Sheffield. And the slider low and away. It'll be Sheffield, then Tatis and Murphy for the Mets in the last of the ninth. Tatis always shadowing in the on-deck circle. Popped up. Utley calling. 1 out in the last of the ninth. Well, right after Keith and Ron and I are done here, be sure to keep it tuned for Lincoln Mercury post-game extra. Chris Carlin, Bobby Ojeda, Darryl Strawberry will all be along today to wrap up this homestand, bring you interviews, highlights, Jerry's post-game reactions. Lincoln Mercury post-game live right after every Mets game, only on SNY. Well, he arrived with his headdress on, and he will leave with his headdress on. Not sure the significance of it, but he has brought it all the way up to the turnpike, and he has displayed it all day.
It's important to show your individuality, Gary. You know, I was thinking if Cliff Lee goes to 5-0, who's the guy in 1980 that went 5-0 for them down the
Marty
stretch?
Maestro.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, I remember that. I remember when I faced him. He painted that outside corner that year, and he had that little wicked slider.
Well, he was a rookie called up late.
Yeah.
But, you know, you think about in-season trades, turning a race around or, you know, propelling a team to a championship. You have to think about Sabathia last year,
yes,
leading the Brewers into the playoffs. And, of course, the classic one was Rick Sutcliffe.
Yes, don't mention it.
Well, and there's a parallel there because Sutcliffe was traded to the Cubs from the Indians.
The Indians, right.
Much as Lee came to the Phillies from the Indians.
Let me tell you something. We lost that year to the Cubs, and we might have won in '84 if they didn't get Sutcliffe.
I think we would have. 3-2 now to Tatis.
What did he go? 16-1.
16-1.
16-1. Can you believe he beat us all the time?
Yeah. Well, he was the classic pitcher that year that could throw any pitch on any count.
Exactly. I remember it well.
He'd throw you a 2-0 curveball just to stay in shape. It was unbelievable.
I remember when he struck me out with the bases loaded, 2 outs. Big game at Shea late, and I had him 3-1. And he painted a turnover, sinking changeup, knees in black, swung and missed. Had a great cut though. 3-2. And then he dropped a hammer on me.
Go sit down.
Strike 3. I tipped my hat. Had a good swing on that one too.
Bouncing ball left side, Rollins. And Howard handles the throw, and Tatis retired 2 out. You know another late season trade that helped the team get to the postseason but had long-term negative ramifications for that team? 1987, the Detroit Tigers acquire a pitcher named Doyle Alexander, who I think went 9-0 or 9-1 down the stretch for them, helped them to the division. What they give up in that deal? Smoltz.
Wow. Who was a Detroit native, or a Michigan native anyway.
I was very happy the Braves traded Doyle Alexander out of the league. He had a great curve.
Yeah.
And he had that herky-jerky motion. He had a terrific curve. Right off the table. As good a curve as I ever faced in the big leagues.
Daniel Murphy 1 for 3 on the day. A long double his last time up. It was nice to see Smoltz make his return last night for the Cardinals after really struggling with the Red Sox. And granted, it was against the Padres.
Yeah,
but still.
He struck out 7 in a row. And even though the Padres struggle as far as batting average, that's still 7 in a row.
Now the Mets are down to their final strike of the afternoon. Santos hoping for a turn. Lidge trying to keep that from happening. The Philly fans making noise. 1-2. Popped up. This should end it. Phillies waiting for it to come down. And the ball game is over. A 1-2-3 ninth for Brad Lidge. Cliff Lee goes 5-0 as a Philly. Ryan Howard hits 2 home runs and drive in 5. Phillies take 3 out of 4 in the series, and the Mets finish this 11-game homestand, winning 4 and losing 7.
Well, just too much Ryan Howard today with those 2 home